posters, I guess that's what it costs us, 30 million.
No.
Perfect.
Mike's working great.
It's neat. Recording in progress.
So do you have
Cheryl's not, well, Cheryl's right here,
a
Cheryl.
chunk of openings that
Holly
you just
died.
continually fill?
Well, she's online, so she's sick.
Oh, she is.
I can't remember. I can't remember. Is he still alive?
So, pretty fortunate.
Really?
We have a full complement.
Paul, you can hear us good?
Can you hear us, Paul?
Yes,
Okay.
Jeremy already made you the host.
What did he say?
Oh, thank you.
Yes, that way you can get your presentation ready.
Well, we're starting to get this down, aren't we, Paul?
I know what's coming.
Let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, this is Easter week, this is Holy Week, and we thank you for the fact that you died on the cross for our sins, that you give us mercy and strength, and that you rose again, conquered those sins so that we can have the promise of eternal life. Help us to remember how this community can fit into that plan of yours, and that we can be the city that shines its light on the hill to millions of visitors. As we go through this meeting, help us to be obedient to your will, to do good things for this community, and to have good discourse and good discussion. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, please call the roll.
Sure. So we've got Gail is present, Brian, Steve, Chuck,
Here.
Billy,
Here.
Mayor,
Here.
and Kathy.
Here.
We have a quorum. You should have received the February 28th minutes, and I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Chuck approved, and we'll say Brian seconded. I'm not sure who else.
They're both together.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Financials. Sherry?
Yeah.
Help us out.
Okay, I have 10 hard copies, so I didn't expect this many people. So who, you want one?
I've got my own.
You got your own?
Yeah.
Miss Kathy?
I'll share with the name.
Okay. And Brian. Yeah. Anybody else? You need one? Anybody?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, see, we're good. Okay, so this is the financials as of the end of February. We're gonna go the year-to-date actuals. So if you go down the second column, you can see revenue. We have 1.1 million. We're running pretty good compared to last year. We're running at 19% with the sales and use tax and 30% with the interest income. And so compared to last year, it's about a 70,000 increase for February to February. So doing pretty good. Expenditures are really good. So we only had about 110,000 in expenditures, and compared to last year at this time, we had 218, so about half. And then we just have our transfers in and out, and you'll see the 6 million, which was the payment to the city. So thank you for that. So we had a decrease of 5,255,000, and we started the year with a fund balance of 14,040,309, and ended with February with a fund balance of 8,784,822. We're seeing it go back up. Okay, and then if you go to the balance sheet, we have in our bank account almost 8 million, 7.7 million, with total assets of 8,796,670. Liabilities right now of just almost 12,000, with a fund balance of 8,784,823. And then the next page is just where the money's at. So in the central bank, which is our main operating account, we have a little over 1.5 million. And that one we earn 4.5% interest. And then we have 6.2 million in the higher investments, like 4.75 and 5%. And then our last page is our tax collection. And I like to look at the year-to-date one. So if you look towards the bottom of the page, you'll see a 10.5% increase. And that's compared to last year, which we had a 6% year-to-date increase, and that's compared to increase over the year that was a 41% increase. So, I mean, just crazy. It's looking really, really good right now. And that's what I have, and then the rest is the detail that you can look through.
And so that third line, is that actually January?
Well, it's a mixture,
Okay.
so it's some January, some December. That's what I'm saying. It's little,
Okay.
it's percent. 24% January, 75% December, and then that 1% is like late filing.
Okay, then you've also given us the detail.
Yep.
Yeah, so Sherry and I had a little conversation because Mayor, you had asked her last time about that category. Could she do a lag? And you want to tell everybody what you found out?
It's difficult. So I thought I was going crazy. So I did pull the report, and I will show you, and I will explain why it's just, it's based on, okay, everybody, you can all look, but I wouldn't rely on this report because it's all over the board. And, okay, so it's based on when people, it's actually when they file. So if you look at January 24, it shows like half of what we did last year at January 23, but that's because only 108 businesses filed at this time frame, and last year there was a total of 198. So it's just not consistent. So we were talking, I could look over like a year period and maybe give you an idea by category, like maybe like that way, but on a month-to-month basis or whatever, it's just, there's too much movement.
Fair enough. That
Yeah.
is very fair. Thank you.
So is there a penalty for the ones that are not paying on time?
It's,
I know,
it's,
no, I'm-
I would-
as a
I would-
business owner on 76, I'm
Well,
getting
I-
our taxes in on the 20th.
it's
every
not, it's
time.
not through us, it's through the state. And,
No, I'm talking about the tourism tax.
yeah, well, we do charge a penalty, absolutely,
Okay.
but we pull this report from the state.
Okay, so this is not tourism taxes, state
This
tax.
is when
Okay.
they file it through the state of
Okay,
Missouri.
that's fair. So-
And then, they do allow some to file monthly, some quarterly.
Yeah.
They don't all have to do it.
Yeah.
And some
Depends
can
on-
do, some
depends
can
on
do
the
it yearly,
income.
depending on the
Okay.
revenue, so.
Okay, I was thinking tourism tax, so.
Yes.
So there's no way to corral that.
Not
Right.
that, but the tourism tax just, please do.
Oh, we most definitely do.
Yeah.
We can go talk about that. as
Okay,
well.
thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so what we talked about is if she will, is go back a couple of years and give us end of year to put those together. And then instead of maybe doing a month where you have this big of a difference, maybe do a 12-month roll.
Yeah.
So that, and I truly, I told her, I said, I don't want to work her to death, but if it's helpful to understand what's going on in 76 and we can figure it out, we don't probably figure it out.
And I'll definitely help with it.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Financials? Do I have a motion to approve the financials?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Journey, we got your PowerPoint last evening, and I think there's copies here if anyone would like copies. And lead us through it, please.
Share my screen.
I think because apparently I printed the
No,
whole
that's-
thing. So I have all.
Oh, this is city money. You only get the highlights. So.
I thought maybe
We charge by seller page here. Sorry about that. I didn't print the full thing.
So, well, there really are two things. So the cover is the same. So what you're getting is sort of the decision-making packet that's being passed around. We've made some great progress. We're at this place where we have some recommendations for you on finishes and materials and landscape. And so I do have some information. I'm gonna walk through this quickly. I don't want to dwell on things, but I wanted you to have the PowerPoint so that if you need to go back and look at some of the information that's provided, there's some good background information that's in that PowerPoint. So you have the PowerPoint, and then what was passed around is actually just a little bit of a hold in your hands help for the actual things I'm asking some input on today.
So can I take one moment?
Of course.
So when I was the chairman of the building committee for the Branson High School, they showed up and when I saw the PowerPoint, this kind of reminded me that they showed up and, there's tile to be picked and carpet and wall finish and that kind of thing. And really what the board kind of went through was, geez, we all probably have a different opinion and we can take quite a bit of time to do that. So we tried to stay out of it, other than it's okay if you see something that is, you think is egregious, but there was the revelation that there's like 8 right answers to most everything. Am I right?
Yes.
Where we had the issue was we had a hard time keeping the school staff out of making those decisions. And in the end, we have a really nice high school. But I think where the board there made real, what I would call revisions that made sense. Have you all ever been in the gymnasium at the Branson High School? And so you've seen where it looks like the cannonball's coming through the deal and it spreads out on the floor. Well, that came from the board. It was how do we Bransonize this particular school building? And I think, and so I'm gonna let you do whatever you want to do. What I would encourage you to do is try to stay out of, gee, I like red. Okay, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
You bet. So as we continue through the progress on the project, we always go back to this master plan, this corridor map, and we're continually sort of tweaking it and making the changes. And so there is always this the corridor map, and at some point we're going to arrive where it's all good, and there'll be this beautiful thing that gets printed forever and ever. We're looking forward to that day, just as you all are. The slide that's on the screen shows you our recommended pavements, crosswalk pavements, site furnishings, all in one fell swoop. We're asking today really for your blessing for these recommendations. I will tell you, that we heard your words last time. And I think, Chuck, I'm going to attribute this comment to you. There was a question about broom finished concrete. And we heard that. And what we would like to say in answer to that is we would like to consider textured concrete similar to what's out there now, but we have some special areas that we've identified. And those special areas have some other types of materials. There's the Bowmanite color topping at the piano walk that's in one of the plazas, for example. Anytime we can, we'd like to put a little nugget of flagstone paving in. The answer really is budget will allow us to do some of those things. And as we are moving through with our final decisions here, we'd like for you to give us your blessing on these materials so that we can use these materials in the project. These are the things that we have. And you'll see some renderings here in a moment, of course, that show you kind of where most of these materials are being used and focused on today. But as budget allows, we'll extend the textured concrete as far as we can, if that makes sense.
So Johnny, just question that, and I have the brushed concrete issue also on that method.
Yep.
So am I understanding that the rest of the walkway will be similar to what we have? At least it's not brushed concrete, is that?
We may do, I think the city actually owns the mat for the texture.
Mhm.
And it may be that it's a texture instead of broom finish.
Okay,
It may be that it's a texture on a gray that has a special wash to it that, makes it
okay, so it's just doesn't look like my driveway.
broom finished concrete. I mean, we heard you. And I think we have the ability to texturize the concrete. If budget allows us, we can do that for the whole thing. We do have 2 miles of sidewalk. We have a mile on this side and we have a mile on this side. And so we are asking for you to give us your grace and allow us to identify where the colored textured concrete needs to go in the special areas. and where we are moving just to a gray texture.
So will there be a point in this process where that budget decision will come back to this board?
It will.
Okay,
We are quickly moving to that. We are in preliminary plans, if you will. And so the decisions that we're making right now and what I walk away with today will allow us to move into that part of the construction documentation where we can then bring you back the probable cost with a finer point on it than we had at the 60% level.
okay, thank you.
Will that probable cost also reflect what it would be if we were to do the entire area with the tent and the stamp?
We can certainly look at that as an alternative. We can, but there are some maintenance questions about trying to keep that colorized, concrete with a finish on it and keeping it sealed and so forth. And so we're trying to take that into consideration as well.
So when you say colorized, I mean, typically what they do or what they have done is the concrete's already that color coming from the plant.
Yes, it's an integral color.
Right,
That's
right.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not doing a topically applied color under any circumstances here.
Right.
It's an integral color. It is then texturized on top, and then you come back with a finished powder that gives it some depth in the texture. And then there is a sealer that's applied to the top of that. And so that's the process for the concrete. And we can certainly look at both those numbers and we can do it, but we are making design decisions based on the budget that we have at hand. And so
Understood, but
Yeah.
at least at the very least, we would have a number that would say, okay, if you want to go with the brown instead of you going with the gray,
Mhm.
then here's going to be your variance and your cost. That's the biggest question I would have because, it's an opportunity for us to just make it a little bit better, in my opinion. And if it's say, and I'm throwing a way low number here, but say it's $10,000 for the variance for the full 2 miles, it's worth the $10,000 in my
Sure.
opinion.
it's usually 2 to 3 times the
No, I'm
cost.
fully aware.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah,
So
so you know what I'm
I
saying.
know exactly what it is, but
Sure.
I'd like to at least see that. variance.
Absolutely, you bet. We can surely do that. The site furnishings, the benches that you see, everything that's there is a wood-like finish. It is not it's not a natural wood finish, but it's a wood-like finish because, again, maintenance requires us to really take into consideration how those materials will weather over time and how they'll stand up. So the bench, the specific thing that we are looking for here is something that people can't lie down on and sleep overnight. That's been something that's been a little bit issue. We will also look at there's the porch swing, and we're aware that there's not currently a handle in here. That's probably something that we'll research a little bit more, or we'll add something to it so that you can't lie on the porch swing and sleep overnight. Again, we understand that that's an issue. We do have chairs, the lounge chairs, and we're showing them in yellow. Our preference is to put a little pop of color out there in our corridor. And so we're recommending yellow, but we're also showing you that there's another chair. If there should be some reason to do that, we might make that choice. And then of course the trash cans to match all of the other things in terms of the site furnishings. So that's the site furnishings and materials. These are consistent throughout the corridor and they are repeated throughout the corridor in many areas. All right. So I'm just going to show you a series. I'm not going to dwell a long time on these, but just a series of these images so that you can see kind of how the materials are being applied and where, in the crosswalk areas, we're using one pattern for the actual crossing without regard to the truncated domes, which is a very specific ADA requirement in a contrasting color. And then at the median, you may recall that we have a mountable curb right here. This is a drivable surface, but it's a cobbled surface, so it is not a walkable surface. It would be very uncomfortable for people to walk on that surface. This is kind of a typical how the plantings will look at the edge of the road, and these are the Corten planters, excuse me, that that we've selected and used throughout this project on and off, and we totally see those, and you can see another one of those kind of up here at the edge of the seating area. This is that hawk. It's really not shown at quite the right height in this case, but just to give you an idea that we may even, if budget allows, be able to come in and clad that pole so that we're a little bit more thematic and not have anything that takes away from the safety. If we did that, we have also the ability to do a little bit of branding on that post. And so we're trying to introduce that branding and that repetitive thing as we go through the corridor. So you're going to see that same sort of thing in these areas. We've got some of our fun areas where people can make some music, and you're always going to see the same thing. You're going to see the naturalized plantings. You're going to see boulders. We're really trying to stay thematic with our ribbon theme and concept, and that just travels all the way down the corridor. We don't have a lot of areas where we have special spaces, but we do have this one area where the right-of-way was wide enough and we didn't have to really reach too far to actually make some really great spaces. These gathering spaces, this particular element will likely be smaller and would be more of a table where you could bring your own checkers. You could have a checker top, or you could play chess or checkers on that top if people wanted to bag up their pieces and come and sit and play. We want to encourage people to stay in the corridor because we want them to shop in the corridor. And I think that's pretty consistent. I think everybody feels the same way. This is the east end of that area where you can see what we call the wavy walk, and we've got another little close-up of the wavy walk, which is really kind of intended to attract kids. Yeah, just a fun little area, So these are just to give you a good feel for how that looks overall. This is the way it feels. This is how these things are being applied. I want to talk a moment about signage and wayfinding. This is more background information, honestly. I'm not going to read everything that's on the slide so much as I want to just help you all understand that any of the wayfinding and any of the signage, including traffic control signage, we take into consideration the same things. These things are set forth by AASHTO and then into MUTCD, which are our technical documents. Every sign that's in our way, if it's wayfinding for us, or if it's signage that's in the corridor, falls into the same set of criteria. Essentially, that there are so many seconds that you apply to detection and reading the sign. There are so many seconds, actually a second and a half, where your eye is moving from what you see back to what you're doing to what you see. And then driver maneuvering, which gives you so many seconds to actually make the decision to where to turn and so forth. These are things that we take into consideration when we look at safety signage, but it's also something that we take into consideration when we see identification signage, for example. And so when we're looking at wayfinding, which is what we're really going to be talking about, and when we're looking at how to find people in their businesses, it's all the same information. Again, not going to read these things, but these are the things that we take into consideration, and that AASHTO and MUTCD take into consideration when they're looking at traffic signs and signals, mounting height, the orientation, size. The letter height is really an important thing. That's why every stop sign that is regulatory in nature has the same size letters, right? Because they've done the studies over and over and over. And when we do branding and we do wayfinding, we take that information into consideration as well. Whether you're a pedestrian, there's a different set of criteria for a person who's on foot than there is for a person that's in a vehicle. We're talking about vehicles here. So this is probably one of the most important things we can say in this part of the conversation, and that is that there is a cone of vision. That cone of vision is a 20-degree cone of vision. This is what you see. In this cone of vision, we acknowledge that there is a peripheral vision and that there are obstacles like the car in front of you and busy things happening on either side. But that cone of vision is really very true to, to what we do. That's why we place stop signs at a certain height. That's why we do wayfinding. That's why when we do identification signing, like a gateway sign, for example, you're going to see those things placed in certain places and they're going to be at a certain height or the letters are going to be a certain size. So with that, these options, the options that you see on the screen, there's option A, B, and C. And what I'm asking you at the end of this meeting are two questions really. On the materials, I would like a nod on the material sheet. All of the materials and the street furniture, if you will, we'd like a nod. We believe that we put that down through the filter to a point where we're making a recommendation and we'd like you to acknowledge that. We are at a place in the branding and the identification signage where we would love for you to give us some input. And so we're putting on the table a primary sign option and secondary sign options, and giving you a little bit of information here with some photos that show you exactly why we've made these selections, how they fit into our theme. You may remember that we went through a lot of information about how to get there to that ribbon theme, and the Ozarks played into that. And so we'd like for you to weigh in on your favorite primary A option and your favorite secondary, or your favorite primary option and your favorite secondary options. So you have in your little decision-making packet these same things, and so if you'd like to, you can make a note as we're going through. You'll notice in the secondary option that we've always given you this option. That's because this is one of the strongest thematic things that we have. We're using Corten steel. We feel like Corten steel with these cutouts look good and are thematically appropriate and give us a lot of different options at a lot of different sizes. And so we're doing that, but then we'd also like the ability to have another secondary option so that we could use it, whether it's upright like this, or whether it's horizontal like you'll see in another option. Whether we incorporate stone like in option B with a bit of Corten on the primary sign, in this case, a layered primary sign. And Michael had asked me a really great question that I want to answer publicly. From the back of the curb to the first piece here is 25 feet. And so that is the appropriate offset for what we would consider to be an obstacle should someone, they would hit a light pole or an electric box or a controller box before they would hit a sign at that distance. And so it was a great question, and I didn't have the ready answer when we spoke before, so I wanted to give that to you. And then finally, in option C, using the Corten, very similar to what you see here, in an upright manner, showing that ribbon weaving. And I don't want you to get locked on to the details here. We're just saying, hey, here's where Branson could be identified, and we would work that out. So don't think that this is the final design. These are concepts. We just need a direction. But in this case, I would call your attention to the secondary option here, one of the same secondary options, of course, but the secondary option where we're turning that Corten on its side and doing a cutout. What the cutouts do for us is they give us a lot of options to do backlit things so that we can use lighting at night, but still have it be a very clear, concept during the day. So we'll talk more about that as we go on, but those are the options we're asking you to weigh in on. The other place that the viewing corridors and the information about how people travel in cars is the discussion of signs and trees. And so our recommendation for landscape takes into consideration that we've actually applied a view shed from a car traveling approximately 125 feet away. And we have put that view shed on every single sign in the corridor. And and what we've done is the only trees that we're recommending in this corridor fall outside of a view shed for a sign. And so that's what you're gonna see on these following sheets are the only trees that we're showing are those trees.
Clear, you said you should,
View shed.
they,
Woo, I know, it's a tongue tie.
for a sign,
Yes,
what if the building is their sign? Like, for example, if you drive by the Hollywood Wax Museum or the aquarium, our sign is really.
is on the building, sure.
So that would be my question on that. That's why I was that was another comment on the last one is put a bunch of, 20-foot tall trees in front of my building, then
Right.
I've wasted a ton of money and, that's kind of.
It's an absolutely brilliant question, and here's what I'll say is, in your decision-making packet, when you open that packet up, I included all of the plant material sheets, all of them. Not all of the trees that we're suggesting are 20-foot tall trees.
Right.
Some of them are more like large, leggy sumac materials. And we have a lot of choices. We have a lot of choices. And the choices we're not locked into the choices, but these are the things that we're showing. What you can see what you see on the screen, I guess you guys can kind of see that, right? Is that the dark green are required replacement trees. We do live in an environment where we're developing. And so when we take something out, we have to put it back. And so the dark green trees are required.
Required by the city, required by?
Well, it's a
parks?
requirement that the city has in their code.
Okay,
in their
but it's
development
something
codes.
that could be addressed by this board within the city guidelines of what's there. Is that correct or not?
If there wanted to be a change to the code, certainly the board could take that up.
Okay. I was curious because I saw required on that.
Yeah, well, and I should be very clear. We are every part of this plan set is actually moving through the same process that anybody that develops
Understand, yeah.
goes through.
Yeah.
And so we're putting the plans in, so the water line plans have gone in and we've received comments and responded to those comments. The road and drive plans, same process. And this is where we are. We're at the landscape plans.
Yeah.
And so we've prepared a landscape plan set that addresses required buffers and also required trees. And the exceptions are the exceptions that we're asking for, that we're literally asking for, fall in this category. We're saying, hey, we're in a very special corridor that needs visibility to the signs. And so we're asking for exceptions
Okay.
for that. And the document that you see here is going in with those landscape plans. But likewise, where we are taking things out with construction, where there's been something that's been in place for a long time, we're gonna replace those things. And some of the reasons we're taking them out are, some of it's grading, and some of it is utility corridor. And you guys know that the utility corridor is kind of a big disturbance, right? So nothing survives in the utility corridor area. And so we are just trying to be very fair and say, hey, you had something there, we're gonna put it right back. So the dark green are replacements.
Okay.
So that was, so I know it's required, but it's required also at the location that is indicated.
We are putting them back where,
So that basically, that was a tree there and you just put it back where it was before,
if we have to take
Okay.
it out, we're putting it back where
exactly to the same spot.
as close as we can, Billy.
Yeah, I know, but I just wondering,
Or that could be an adjustment.
Yeah,
I guess that's the question.
yeah, I know it's a require, but I know the require in the city, according to planning is just the amount of tree you take out.
A tree per tree, yeah.
Tree to tree. But location wise, it's still up to the owner. On this one here, I just wondering about, it was
The owner of that property could weigh in on that.
Okay, I was
at
just
that
wondering,
point, I
and that's why
suppose.
my question was there.
Yeah, they could say, hey, could we move those a little bit? Can we shift those a little bit? We could probably do that, I suppose. But we also, again, as long as there's no conflict, because again, we're developing a very hardy document here to help us, make the case that we don't want to put things in front of signs. We don't. We hear you loud and clear. We don't want to disturb that. But we also want to try to create a corridor that's comfortable, that's walkable. And you guys have heard me say this before. Place is made with 3 planes. It's made with a ground plane, a vertical plane, and a top plane. And when I take the top plane away, I don't really have space anymore. I might create an experience, but I don't really have place. And so we really are placemaking. We're trying to place make here. And the places that we're making are experiences all along the way. And some of them have places where you might want to pause if it were very hot outside or what have you.
I think we get the shade covering and everything associated with that.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and Michael, don't shoot me for bringing up this, because I know you're really wanting to. If a business goes and does a project and they have to remove a tree,
Yeah.
they have to put a bond down on that tree.
Mhm.
If they do not plant that tree back, they lose that bond. So therefore, the required part of this, I don't necessarily think is accurate, because you can put a bond down and not replace a tree. You just lose that deposit you put down or bond that you put down. Correct?
Sure, so that's true for land clearing.
I don't know about,
And then, so what she's putting back is she's putting back the required buffers right away.
that's why I'm asking.
That, and she's actually way under what she should be putting in there. She's at like 166 verse 3 something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
We're-
they've
we're
eliminated a
requesting.
lot, and we will request Amanda's group. It's not my group. We're requesting for a variance.
I do appreciate there are many less dots, dark green dots on this
Right.
plan than the one we saw
Yeah.
previously.
A-
So appreciate you listening, and I think it's very important that we have that visual looking down Highway 76. All this from this, 2 foot up is fine, that's that,
Sure.
but getting up in that visual line, I think is critical. That's what people love, standing on those sidewalks and looking down through there, but they need the comfort, I understand, so.
We're not, we're also trying to get through this streetscape so that it does feel like a streetscape,
Yeah.
right? But we did hear you, we have listened, and we have taken that back and applied it. And I'm hopeful that what you see, I'm gonna keep moving because there are like 3 or 4 of these slides, and so let's just keep going, because it's the same thing. It's the same thing the whole way. We have,
Tierney, excuse me. before
yes,
you
of
go-
course,
Before you move on,
yes,
I just want to make a point. Obviously, I cannot speak for the Board of Aldermen, but I have to believe, instead of using the word required,
yes,
I believe this Board of Aldermen is going to be very accommodating. This corridor is so important to our entire city, and our code could say, who cares? This board will amend that for this corridor because they know the importance of it. So give yourself a little bit more liberty and not feel so restricted with, this is required.
okay. Yes, I appreciate that. We are,
Yeah.
we have actually written a design memo that asks for that leeway.
Okay, yeah.
We are asking for that leeway, but coming to this meeting and having this discussion with you, I felt like was really an important step, toward making that application, if that makes sense. Oh, gosh, I have a mouse, use your mouse, Jeremy.
So the only thing I would tell you is when I looked at this, you don't have any evergreens in there. And
No, we do not.
So in the wintertime, it's gonna be a bunch of dead trees. And I would encourage you in the right places to put some ornamental evergreens.
We will look for,
And I agree with the mayor. In fact, I was gonna say it if he didn't, which is I don't necessarily care about what the code is. I want you to do your
That's
best.
exactly right. That's
And,
exactly right.
and we've told you and this whole board knows, there's two things that are really important to people. One is signage and the other is access.
Yes.
And so it is what it is. I think in every stakeholder discussion, you get some discussion about a tree.
Yeah,
All right.
all right. These guys. Kind of to our end. So just a few kind of rendered places so that you can see, this is what the landscape plans, this is not what a submittal of the landscape plans looks like. This is literally a rendered version, so you can kind of see the differences between things. But we want you to, when we make reference to the dry creek beds, you know, those dry stream beds, again, that's thematic, but also we're locating those in places where it makes sense, right? So there is some water quality potential there, but we're not really doing bioretention. We are also changing the pavements in some of these areas where we have the ability to place lounge chairs and sit, because it feels good, right? We want to do that where we can. And we are looking for color. We really are looking for color. We also recognize that, you know, we are in the Ozarks, and in the winter, things do go dormant. And we certainly recognize that, which means that we're going to put an even greater emphasis on having some lighting in some places that makes sense, so that it's not all just, you know, dead plants or perennials or whatever.
Jeremy, just kind of perspective for me there on, so the sidewalks there, what kind of width of sidewalk?
8 feet.
That is 8 feet there, so.
Yes, sir. And then of course it broadens out. So when you see something like this is a connection. This is actually a connection to an existing
It's a minimum of
walkway.
8 feet there. If I recall previous discussions, there are some areas, not in these areas, that are maybe not that wide.
Where we don't have the space, where maybe there's been an existing business that has built out to the right of way, and maybe there's a fence or an actual activity right out to the right of way line. Our sidewalk does narrow down so that we're not disturbing your tax collecting businesses. We're coming down and just slipping through with a minimum 5 foot wide walkway, and then we go out to our 8 foot.
So
i.e.
on the-
Bigfoot, i.e. Bigfoot.
Okay,
So we would have to take down part of their business to.
so, but you're narrowing the road, so do you not pick up enough to do?
We don't
Not
actually,
there.
we actually do not. I remember that our.
You don't, you're still narrowing the road, but you don't have enough room to pick up. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 8 foot consistently on the east side.
Okay,
So the east side always has an 8 foot walkway.
okay, that's good.
But the west side, we have some places where we just don't have enough space. We don't have enough right of way. And so we're 8 foot wide, but then occasionally we have to taper down to slip past somewhere. And I think it's been done. And, you know, I'm proud of this design team, guys, really. I mean, I can't say enough about the design team that I'm working with. It has been done so artfully, Steve, that I doubt very seriously that you'll look at the plans and you don't see it. And the idea is that even if you're experiencing it, it's a very brief moment in your experience and you pass by, and then it's not something,
So your sense of that is it 80% on the west side that is 8 foot and?
It's a lot, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
it's a lot.
the majority would be 8 foot on, okay.
We have
that's-
maybe three places where we've had to sort of slim down. And frankly, guys, we've got a nice buffer between the travel way and the sidewalk. We have enough that we have a landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the walkway most of the time as well. But in those areas, we're right against the back of the curb. So those areas are not as comfortable.
Right.
And they don't feel as beautiful, right? But you slide past those and then it opens back up into this nice experience.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeremy,
Yes,
had my hand up, just wanted to mention, I believe we are darn close to 8 foot on almost all of it. We had a few very small locations, but I believe now I will say, where there are places where the 8 foot is up against curb, like the Bigfoot area. But we're very close to 8 foot in most places.
Good.
It's similar to our golf courses.
And that was
stuff.
direction of the city that we would never affect a business's ability to continue tax revenue by taking away something.
Our
So
golf course is the exact same way. It's sidewalks back a curb and it comes
Yes.
out right over our fence. So, and it's right at 8 foot, which
Yeah.
to be honest is smart because that's about what you need. Bicycles. And stuff
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
what I'm looking at. We're talking about theater, that 8 foot is really, it's a comfortable, it's.
It is.
For
I
people to
mean,
be able to walk and
it's-
cross.
It's a minimum for multimodal transportation. That's the absolute minimum, it's 8. And, it's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's, if you get, if we get the kind of traffic that we want, then we're gonna be like, wow, look at this. We gotta go single file on this side for a while, right? That's good. Just a quick look at the roadway sections. We continue to change the roadway sections when we are changing things and having these discussions. So not a lot to see. These are illustrative sections, but you can see that, you can see a bit of the median here, and you can see our utility corridors. Sometimes they're right there at the back of the curb, and sometimes they're moved over a bit. And it varies. That utility corridor does vary because it is followed, along the corridor in a different way. And just another look at the median from a plan view. We've already seen this in a perspective, and I think the perspective is very clear in how you experience it. But I think we are also, this group especially, very accustomed to looking at things in plan view. So when you look at it in plan view, this is a bit of what you see.
And on those crosswalks, and I think those are great from that point through there. I know they're set up for vehicles to be able to go down through there. Is there a real way to prevent cars that think they want to pull up over on that and go down through there? Is there a way to maybe address that more?
she put that heavy cobble in there. It'll be uncomfortable to drive on it, uncomfortable to walk on it.
Yeah.
But you have to leave it wide open because when do we know a police
Yeah,
or
I understand
ambulance or
that,
a fire
but
truck's coming? So
I guess you guys feel that there is enough there that it will discourage.
it will be uncomfortable.
Discourage
It'll
cars.
be like driving 65 and hit the rumble.
And somebody's gonna do it probably anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It'll happen.
All right.
Oh, they might, yeah.
That's why we tried to minimize them.
But the design, I very much applaud you on that. I think that's one of the best things that you all have.
You know what? I think that it has come together really.
Very
It's been a
nicely.
team effort.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
excellent.
lie, between the engineering department and the design team. I think we've landed on something that is gonna be very, very different and very, very safe for you here.
And on those, the requirements, you're doing that to requirements of how many there are based on
Crosswalk.
Yeah, the crosswalks. I'm sorry, the study of, I guess, one of my concerns is there may not be enough, there may be too much space between crosswalks.
We actually had, we did take the one crossing out toward the end of the
Mhm.
corridor and that was for a safety, that was a safety request. And so that went away. Otherwise, no, they're spaced exactly right for how people move and when they want to cross. So we're in pretty good shape on our
Okay,
crosswalks,
right.
honestly. I mean, as long as no one's gonna, if you guys promise me you're not gonna try to drag race here, because you're not gonna have enough
No
room. you're gonna-
guarantees.
Yeah. I'm thinking more from the customer's perspective, as I
Yeah, no,
watch
no.
them, they're 40 feet from our crosswalk in front of our theater and they cross the road.
Human nature.
Human
right?
nature.
Yeah, and I guess I'm looking, is there a way to deter that a little bit
Well-
from the other sections?
I think, what we've done, Steve, is we've designed buffers in, and so the landscape, the very thing that you're looking at here with that plant palette, that undulating earth,
Prevent that.
very small berms or whatever, discourages people from wanting to, get through there. If they make their way through the Ozarks that we're building along the roadway, God help them, right?
That's good. I'll be quiet now, thank you.
But we're doing our best. We are doing our best. Anyway, just to look at kind of thematically, these are plants. These are some of the plants, not all the plants. You have the plants. You have the plants in your packet. This is just a compilation of some of that packet. The idea here is that we're trying to be seasonal. We want seasonal interest, but we want color. We want this to feel very much like a little piece of the Ozarks fell out into our corridor. Okay. We love it. We think it's going to be very different. So what do we need? What are we asking you for today? We're asking for the approval of the collective's recommended finishes, materials, and landscape for segments 1 and 2. That's one item, and then the second item is we would ask you to come to a consensus on wayfinding concept for primary signage and secondary. So we'd like for you to say, hey, here's the primary we'd like for you to pursue, and here's the secondary, option that we would like for you to pursue. So the only real thing that you're weighing in on, if you will, are those options A, B, and C. And it's primary and secondary. That's what we're asking for.
I'll steal that since mine's so very big.
And I do have, I have them, they're the site furnishings. We're asking for your blessing on the recommendation. This board represents the recommendation. That's the first item we're asking for. The second item is primary and secondary between the options A, B, and C.
And Jeremy, quick
Yes.
question, of
Yes,
all
ma'am.
these choices,
Yes,
are they all within the budget?
we are all within the budget.
Okay.
The way we place them and how many we place and where we place, that starts to be where we need to filter out. But I need a direction, because that way, then we can really look at how they get applied to the corridor. We don't have there are no directional signs here. We're not doing that sort of thing, but we are branding. We are branding this corridor, and the brand that we're selecting, the brand that we put out there needs to occur often enough that people see it and they know and feel it. And as I said, I'm asking for a couple of secondary options, but one of them I actually picked for you. You got that, I guess, since it shows up in all the options. You got that, I guess.
So let's look back to the front. Well, the very first question is the materials with the benches and all that. Can we,
Separate, I would like to.
let's get consensus or not
Thank you.
consensus on
Okay,
that.
the consensus on this slide and this slide, which is essentially the landscape plan as I have presented that plan to you today, and the site furnishings and materials.
So I'm not exactly sure how is the best way to do that. So how about we get the elevator speech from each person? Who would like to go first?
I'll go first on this. I think you've done a nice job with this. I think you've hit the mark in many ways. I think Gail's question about the evergreen is important
Absolutely.
in that. So I don't know.
Yep.
And you're
We're
gonna have
approving
less
with-
leaves to rake. Yeah,
What's that?
and you're gonna have less leaves to rake.
Yeah, but so for my part, I'm very comfortable. I think it looks very Ozarks. The yellow I love, of course, I'm Presley, so it's.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's like the first self-serving thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't even think of that. There you go.
Drop some reds in there and you got it made, so. That's all I got, Gil,
That's all right.
on this one.
I've been all yellow people before.
You know what? I love it, Jeremy. I think it's beautiful. I go back to the maintenance side of it. So when you're talking about, and I'm a former home builder, so we did lots of Stampcrete, but it's been a while, so hopefully the finishes have improved since then. But I guess that's the only concern I would have is on some of the Stampcrete stuff. You know, what is the maintenance required on that nowadays? And I'm thinking of shoveling of those areas. You know, you get chips in some of the print and stuff like that. So that's the only thing that concerns me about like that pebble pattern in particular is, you know, the irregular edges and how that might get beat up pretty quickly. But the colors I think are beautiful. The yellow is vibrant and fun. I love the big wood swing thing. I think that's cool. It's got a nice heavy Ozarks feel to it. So I think that's really fun, but that'd be my core question.
Okay.
Okay. Billy?
Yeah, I like pretty much a lot of the color spectrum, a lot of material. I do have some concern with it now, maintenance wise, because we had problem with one of our park before. You know, you think about the swing, I like it, but it also safety, is a very,
But so does walking.
well, yeah, that is a different story. Walking, yeah, you're right about that. But, overall, I don't, now you're asking opinion on that page there, also the next page?
Yes, both.
Okay.
Plans to.
Yeah.
Plans to,
Yeah, I mean, I can call, but I can hop.
What she's looking for is, this is Great River Engineering's perspective and suggestion for approval that they hit the mark and continue forward.
Yeah. So are you planning to use, I know this one here, it's got a bunch of texture and for flooring. Do you think about using all 6 of those is what your suggestion?
Yes,
And the cobble, it's important to know, the only spot that the cobble's at is at the crosswalk spots where cars aren't supposed to be. So that's what you're gonna feel when you hit your car. And then Kathy brought up a great concern about what's that look like with chipping and so on and so forth, and the maintenance of that by being an integral color, not a topical color on it. If it does chip, it's still gonna be black.
Well, in theory, you wouldn't be plowing that anyway, I would.
Correct.
If it's on those raised areas,
Yeah,
that
you would probably not.
you would
We'll
plow
say
that
probably
roadway,
not.
don't it?
Watch us get 20 foot of snow. Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we broom it or do something different.
Now, the trash can, is that the area that you're gonna go with, or is that, do we have any other option with that, or
there,
is that, are we picking that trash can right now too, or just the color?
No.
There's the shape of it too.
there are many other shapes that use the wood, and we would certainly take any comments that you have. There are round shapes, for example. Sometimes what we find in public settings is if you go with a round trash can, should it fall over, it moves.
It blows.
And when you go with a square trash can, I know that you guys are like, seriously, Jeremy? Seriously, guys. When it falls over, it just doesn't move, it falls over and things happen. People push things over or whatever. We don't want your trash can to be rolling around out the street.
I'm thinking of the McDonald's ones from years ago when we called them castle bins. You weren't allowed to call them garbage cans.
Oh,
And so, but they were made out of stone. It was like a cobbled unfinished stone on all sides.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really move that thing around.
right?
Maybe that's a better option than something that's easy to.
We have that in front of the theater at our place, there are panels that go in those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're in there for years, they do eventually wear out, but they,
Right.
Well, only in segment, I don't know what segment 3 look like, but I know I don't really pay attention, but I was trying to be consistent to all throughout the segment 1 to 6. So the question is this gonna be carrying throughout consistently through all the segment, or?
there are no trash cans, I don't believe.
Yeah.
There are no such.
Well, and in segment 3, you don't see the colorful paving stamp, is there? I mean,
It is,
Yeah.
yes, it
It
is.
is showing.
It's the second one down.
Yeah.
That's the second one down.
Yeah, yeah.
We kept the same one.
Yeah, it's a little
The
bit
city
light.
thanks you for that.
I mean, this is just my opinion. It's a little bit light
I agree.
and,
Shows all the difference.
It's not consistent all the way through there too, the colors. up
so
and
we,
down through
we
there.
might,
And that's what we're gonna run
we
into.
might make a recommendation for, for something that has a slightly different color combination. Maybe has a richer undertone or what have you. But they do fade. We know that colors fade. They're out in the sun. They're right there. They're the most exposed thing that you have. So that's something you can take into consideration as well.
The only thing I can think of, I mean, pretty much the color and the texture and all that stuff, it looked like the goal of the design and of the, the natural wood, and I mean, the landscape and all that stuff, except that trash can.
Good point, yeah.
I didn't.
Looks a little modern. doesn't it?
Well.
Well, I hear you say no trash cans and the city supports that 100%.
It
I'll
matches
just say
our
that because
level.
that's one less thing we have to maintain. That was the city's concern. The city's concern with downtown is they're not big enough. And so
It
in
looked like
the
a
cycles,
small Yeah, it's also hard to, but everything else, colors and everything is starting to look good. It
What
just
we do.
meets the goal of the original plan,
It's outside.
which is, as far as this thing here, all the peanut butter, that's gonna look like that, by the way. But, I don't have any, and then there, I don't know if one is, and I don't know if there's any nuisance or any animal or anything that can deter or what, I don't know this kind of stuff. That part of it, I'm not much of a landscape guy. I love the color because it does meet the goals of, the actual goal of their,
You bet. There's a packet. The packet that you have has the trees and the tree forms and the species and the biobasin plants and, we're not really doing biobasins, but we're doing places that are low, like that. There are ornamental grasses. There's a whole, you all have that in front of you. We're not asking you to pick the plants. That's really not what we're asking. What we're asking is that you give us your blessing on the look and feel and give us your confidence that, give us your confidence that we will put those things in the right places, in the right, to create the experience and to be seasonally appropriate and all of that.
Okay, Mayor?
I do not have any artistic qualities.
You like this?
I tell you what, I learned a long time ago, you give me 6 choices, I'll pick my favorite, and Leanne that would be her last choice. So I appreciate those that are in this world, and I will follow your lead.
Awesome, thank you.
Chuck?
So trash cans, I would lean towards the businesses to be responsible for that, similar to what we.
So we're trash can.
Remove them.
Yeah. The
Thank
only-
you. That's appreciated on behalf of the city. I
It will
think
be a maintenance problem. There's
It
no
will.
doubt at all.
It will. The only-
We're fine with that.
we're fine with that.
The only more questionable area would be like your relaxation center where people might want to eat lunch and then.
The relaxation centers are next to a business and maybe we can come up with an agreement to provide a trash can, but they
Or-
provide the
A
service.
partnership.
Or whatever
partnership.
that is.
Okay,
So I have no opinion on color of chairs. That's outside my.
what? Come on, Chuck, man.
Vote for yellow, please.
No. I'm kidding. If I had my choice,
Ocean blue.
it'd be blue.
There you go.
But I don't.
With the fish on the side. I love it.
I'm very happy to see the product for the site furnishings because the benches and the trash cans, like for example, at the aquarium property, if you use the wrong product to build those, they are a maintenance nightmare.
Yeah.
So that I'm really excited about because that's
Great.
huge. The swing scares the living crap out of me. And it scares me because I see kids, I see parents that aren't paying attention to kids, and I see kids behind the swings pushing it as heavy as it may be. And we may try to restrict how much it swings up there some way, shape, or form. But kids falling out of it because they're 3 feet up in the air and breaking an arm or all of those things. And I understand you can trip on your own feet and break your arm, but it's still a liability. It's scary to me.
If it was a glider and not a swing,
That'd be different.
would that
Yeah.
be helpful? Would that be something that we
Because
should?
the question is the size of this swing, is big, like, look like it.
Yeah.
The heavier you
A lot
are,
of weight there,
the
yeah.
better weight to go and just, boy, it only takes a little bit, someone get hurt.
Yeah.
But if it was a glider that could move back and forth and not this
Yeah, I
way.
would be more comfortable with that for
Okay.
sure. Other than kids getting their hands stuck in between the bars and the
Yeah.
hands getting
Sure.
chopped off.
Sure.
We brought up some of these same issues and it was funny to think about. We own a lot of parks with swings.
We do.
It's a different
So,
story.
it's a different-
But that was a good argument she had that
That's a
day.
different-
so,
When
yeah.
you say, you make a good point. I mean, it's the same way what we do in whitewater here and what you do in the pool are different things. So, but you're right about that. But at the same time, this is like a Nikon in the middle of 76. It's gonna be heavy and but it's a grandma, but in the kids area, think about all the people climbing the, you know, all the stuff, you know. It is meant for you, but I just think that this is almost like a different, you know,
It's
and
not on
plus,
the highway.
you know, if you don't ever see this kind of stuff, besides in the playground, because there's probably more safety hazard than this one, so they don't even put that size of swing in the playground.
So it's a suggestion to remove it completely?
No, I think there's I don't know. it
What,
just-
does it have to, I guess my question, does it have to swing?
Wait, I
The
thought about that.
design, design looks really cool. Could it be just a stationary bench that looks like that? And, yeah, again,
I mean, that certainly is a possibility. I think the idea here was whimsy. I think the idea was to put something out there where people, like when you go to Cracker Barrel and they sit in the rockers are always full because people love to sit in the rockers. The idea was, let's put something out there where people would sit and enjoy that experience. So that's why I ask about gliders,
Well,
because it's something, there's something about the movement, and I think Craig is just chomping at the bit.
Yeah, he's got his hand up.
I can hear it over my shoulder.
Only because I'm one of the ones that picked it, so I just wanted to kind of say a few things. They are very, very popular right now in public streetscape, in public areas. They are being designed by street furnishing companies. These are not, you know, like playground companies designing these. They are meant to not really swing much. They almost only rock, but let us do a little deeper dive and make sure that we're getting that right one that doesn't move much, but it has the feel of what you guys like about it, I guess is what I would say.
One way.
That would solve my
Or
problem.
restricted
they
chain.
really-
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah, you
They
can do
don't-
that.
It kind of looks like there might be something underneath there that restricts it.
Maybe
Yeah,
it was
they don't, they're not
15% or
allowed,
something.
yeah, they're not allowed to swing. They actually are attached to the ground a lot of times. And they
Yeah.
almost just rock.
yeah.
They
And
look
you can
like
do
they're
it, you
swinging.
can do it with a spring to where you can create that gliding thing, you know.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be like a chain, you know, that they're locked up, but that to me is, it helps a little bit, because, you know, like you said, all you need is one crazy adult trying to do the
Billy,
extreme.
what would you be doing out there?
Because Steve and I are trying to figure out how to do it. Really old people, man. Okay, Steve, you get one in, I get one in. Let's see how far we can go.
Well, and when you talk about gliders, maybe that's an option on the other chairs, that you're looking at from that
Yeah.
field. Not all of them, but a few of those to give that feel from that walk through
You
there. So,
Yes.
And you're right, Cracker Barrel does that. The Amish store has it in front of theirs
They do.
and the people are lined up. on it.
They are. You have to wait your
Yeah,
turn.
yeah.
All right,
And then the only other thing I had on landscaping is, I think you have to take into consideration that people's buildings are also considered signage. And putting trees in front of line of sight of the building that somebody spent, you know, X amount of dollars to try to draw people in, but giving the sightline to just the sign. Branson's a different market, right? So it's tough. It's tough. So I think that needs to be evaluated. And I think that kind of like what the mayor said and what Gail and, you know, we need to ask for modifications in the code to accommodate this project, and so be it. Let's try to do that. So don't restrict yourself from that perspective.
Much to add. I mean, I echo a lot of what the roots said. You know, discussing maintenance of materials, I think, as you're choosing for your landscaping, shrubs and stuff, we're keeping that in mind as well. Because, you know, a lot of those do require trimming and some less than others. So
Right.
maybe the lowest maintenance possible that still gives you the picture after. That's it. I like everything else.
Journey, I don't know if it's the right tree or not. I know people talk about dogwood. This is a state tree, Missouri State, but also it may be not appropriate to be, because typically they grow in the shade,
They need
in
shade,
shade
and they're
on
also
top.
very very
what do you call it?
hard to grow.
Yeah, and also, they look good just for a few, like few days or whatever it is when they bloom, starts in the spring. But I know that one of the stakeholders talked about, how come you need to put a plant, I can say, well, I don't know, that's the right place to put, dogwood on the strip. But it's pretty, but only a short.
It's
window.
just hot. It's
Yeah,
just hot
yeah.
out there.
Well, and it's, like I said, most of them you grow among the, in the shade area.
Yeah, they're an understory. I mean, they truly.
Yeah,
are.
yeah. But I just thought, I had to throw that in there because the stakeholder mentioned about it.
Things happen. I mean, the cultivars are different sometimes, and so if there's a way that we can consider it, we'll take that under advisement. I appreciate it.
One other question I've got as far as the seasonal aspect of this, and when Gail was talking, so what in these areas from Christmas decorations to be able to go in and have this like Christmas feel, as an example from that point, what's the opportunity there? How can we incorporate that while you're doing these designs to have that change? Because for me, and Ann's worked so hard on this to get Highway 76 to look like it's Christmas down through there, and they've done great work, but boy, we're still a long way to go. And if we could incorporate that within what we're doing here, I think would set a great example
Absolutely.
for the community. So keep that in mind, budget, everything with that,
Absolutely.
what we need to do.
Our next stop, in fact, we're working on lighting right now. So if you'll kind of give us just that
Okay.
next nugget of moment of time. This infrastructure is important to nail down for us. Now we can build on top of that infrastructure, if you will. So knowing that we're good on landscape allows us then to go back and look at where in the landscape we can incorporate opportunities for lighting or light displays or whatever, including where are we gonna, how are we gonna power it up?
Yeah,
Right.
and while you're talking about that, the light pole side of that, from that point through there, if possible, to incorporate the lighting to be able to light a Christmas fixture that would hang from that.
Right.
And consider water aspect if we want to do hanging plants down through there.
Sure. So right at this moment, the lights that we're looking at for the street lights allow for everything that we want.
Right.
Everything.
Right.
And that means that you can plug the Christmas lights in the receptacles up there where other people can't plug in their cell phones, for example. It incorporates, it gives us the ability to, at some point, do some extra things. Anyway, we've got, it's a whole.
I would encourage irrigation as part of that, to be able to do from that point through there.
Hanging baskets.
Yes, well, you could always always put them on, always.
I know you guys at the beginning of picking out that stuff. To me, when you see some of this, it's a bunch of photo opportunity. So as you look at the landscape or stuff, I think there can be places that people want to take a picture of it, whether or not this. So I know you guys already thinking about that anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But that's one thing I would design in a way that you do have that backdrop. That's wow. I need to
absolutely
take a picture of it because of the visitors.
No, but that's a good reminder. I mean, we have these photo. We've always said we want photo op opportunities. We want places where people can pause and have something. And that's not lost. We're still in that. But it's a good reminder.
You show some of this, landscaping, the walkway and all that stuff. I just see that there's a lot of, not that we're making people walk. And if they see this, boy, they're gonna take a picture of that. It's like, every year in Holland during the tulip, everybody took pictures of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Jeremy, one question, how much grass is being adopted in this?
There is still some turf, but there's not a lot of turf, honestly. We're using native plant materials for the most part, but there are areas of turf there.
But when you say turf?
I'm talking about
natural grass?
There is some, yes.
Okay, so I was gonna just a few things. One is the maintenance, right?
Yep.
Mowers, drilling the rock and cars. Picking up dog poop. So there's some negatives that come along with the actual grass portion.
Agreed. We actually, it's rather limited, honestly.
Jeremy, a lot of the grass is ending up between the sidewalk and the curb. Mainly because that's where your corridor, your underground utility corridor is in many cases. And it's also a place for you to store ice and snow, you know, when you push.
Without killing.
You know, you got a lot of salt and whatnot.
Anything else?
I'm sure you guys have been thinking shade also, because somewhere trees and all that. 'Cause I know it's gonna-
Bring in trees, come
Want
on.
a motion to approve for the
Yes,
first
sir.
part?
It's gonna be hard walking around that area.
Yeah.
Dale, do you have any comments?
So you've got 2 miles of sidewalks, so I think you ought to put some chairs that are yellow for Steve, but I think there should be some red and some blue and some, you got plenty of space. Okay, to make it more vibrant.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of stamped concrete. And I say that I have taken out every bit of stamped concrete I have, except for one place. But the reality is, it's 31 years old, so maybe I should just be quiet. The one thing I don't want to do is when they stamp that concrete, they always want to put a little bit of something on top of it to give it some definition. Do not do, because eventually it just won't come. I think you're gonna have to have trash cans at some of those places, or you're gonna have people looking for trash cans. And maybe you provide trash cans to the businesses, but I kind of think in the end, the city's, just like the city has restrooms downtown that you have to take care of, you know.
And those are a nightmare too.
And they're
sometimes.
nightmare, and
I
you
know.
probably don't like them, but
Yeah.
it's part of dealing with the public. I think you're gonna have to have some trash cans somewhere. Past that, whatever you end up with, we need to use that as a guideline that Michael could give to new businesses and say, oh, you know, here's our scheme. You should try to fit into the scheme. And the same thing with the plantings. So one of the things you've got on here is milkweed. Isn't there some initiative by the city at one time to plant a
Years.
milkweed garden or something?
Yeah, years ago, there's little butterfly gardens around the city that the
Okay.
city did,
Okay.
but that's been over with for quite a while, so I think expired.
Monarch seat goes up in a heartbeat. I had one. I was gone in a couple days.
Yeah, so I don't really want to get into that. They all look pretty to me. So, okay. But, and so back to turf, and maybe this is why you were asking. You know, you go to Las Vegas and when they have a small area, it's not grass.
Right.
Okay, it's synthetic.
Yes.
It doesn't require mowing and it doesn't require irrigation and that type of thing. And it probably would be easy to discount that because our climate is different than Las Vegas, obviously. But I'm wondering if
We do have some synthetic as well.
you do,
We
okay.
do. Where the wa-
Activity centers.
Yeah, we're at the activity center where the wavy walk is.
Okay.
That's synthetic.
It's expensive.
Yeah,
It's a small area, but it is.
The kids running.
Yeah, it's kind of a wear and tear thing. When you have a place where you want people to be out there and using it a lot, if it's natural material, they wear it out or they, whatever. So in a small area like that, we've got some natural, some.
So how much remnants do you guys have?
We can call Cindy.
There's got to be a ton of mismine, why the remnants that would make sense to put in that.
Get Cindy on the phone. I think she's really we have something here.
I visited areas, and I know you all too, where they've got that synthetic turf, and boy, you cannot tell whether it's real grass or not. I mean, I've got down in it to look and see.
and it looks like somebody really manicured.
It does, and, just, obviously you'll have a good line on that, so maybe as a cost consideration, that company, it's just, it'd
It's
be,
worth looking at,
it'd be a big,
because
big savings in the.
the trade-off is the expensive
Yeah.
front, but man, it'll last forever.
And you be green all year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is also, we're trying to make it a natural look and all that stuff, and then we got it. And we all of a sudden we just
I don't think you can tell the difference. You could probably tell the difference, but I don't think most customers, I literally was down trying to see if it was.
I can see it, Steve.
It was.
What's Steve doing well?
We'll let budget drive that one.
Yeah, I think you have to. But your small areas, otherwise you're gonna be in there with a push mower.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Which we are doing.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I would work with Han. So what Steve said, about Christmas lights, man, if we had the right pine trees in the right place, then you got a Christmas light place, a Christmas tree place. And it used to be, so you guys been around here a long time, it used to be at the conservation department where Shoney's is now, there was a great stand of pine trees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And,
Beautiful.
and I don't know what kind of pine trees they were, but it was a beautiful stand of pine trees. So it was not your cedars.
Journey probably is not the right time, but I know that, I forgot, are they planning to put water fountain anywhere on the line?
No
There's no
water.
water fountain, okay. I thought so too, but I want to make sure that was, still a plan.
Except for the feature that you were donating, the one that you were gonna maintain.
Yeah.
Not doing.
There you go.
I think he downsized it a little bit.
Did he?
About this size now.
Oh, yeah.
So what she wanted is consensus on that part. So do we,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you need a motion for that or.
Paul, can we make a motion on that we have consensus on her presentation?
For
I
that
think
second.
that, yeah, I think that's fine. I've kind of noted in the minutes a couple of the issues that y'all have raised, but I know Jeremy's taken notes as well.
Okay,
Thanks, Paul.
I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion.
Okay. Second?
There's somebody down there.
Second. Okay, Chuck made second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Okay, signage.
Again, what we're asking for is for you all, I mean, we can talk it out if you like, but one primary, sorry, I don't know why I keep saying that. One primary and one secondary, so between options A, B,
or
and
C.
C.
Help me understand that this primary A picture right there,
Yeah.
that is the entryway, that's a stoplight, and that is David Cushman's sign back in behind back there. And the area planned of, his sign is not very high relative to the roadway.
Right.
That is, when I look at that, that seems like a pretty narrow area right through there,
It's not very big.
not very big. I guess I question why and what we're doing there based on what this is for the area you've got to work with.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the beginning, I mean, literally, it's the beginning of the corridor for this end. So I know we've had a number of conversations about, do we need a gateway there? Do we not need a gateway? We sort of have rethought the gateway forward and backward. But the truth is this, in the master plan, this was considered a beginning point, and then we go all the way to 65, and that is, or beginning and end, we could say, beginning and end. And so we've got these two bookmarks, right? These two bookends. And so this is our bookend, and it's the only bookend that we have in section 1 and 2, segments 1 and 2.
Or 3.
Or three, that's
three,
right,
right.
yeah. So we've already got 3 done, and so this is just that opportunity to say, this is brand.
So is the ribbon that was in the plan before, is that still in the plan
It is
past this?
yes.
Yeah, because we're not seeing that from that point through.
Correct. The big ribbon that goes over the road is still there. We're still looking at the sculptural pieces occasionally popping up in the landscape and over the sidewalk, that sort of thing. That's a relatively consistent idea. There's not a lot of it, and again, we'll be budget driven. We identified a bunch of different kinds of pieces and priced them out. But we never really talked about the wayfinding signs, if you will call them that. I mean, there's not a lot of wayfinding, that we're doing with a primary and secondary, but this is more like a branding. How are we doing this? what is it that we're trying to say? And this primary, the only place that the primary exists is right there on that corner. At this point. This. Oops, now or this.
I wouldn't put the primary in.
Yeah, that's my,
What'd you say, Chuck?
I wouldn't put the primary in with Cushman's sign right behind it. I mean,
that's my thought, and looking at, and I
save
would,
money and spend it somewhere else.
if we were really looking to do that, for me to approve of that, I would have to see a real picture with this laid in there with his sign, because I was just by there a while ago, coming from Silver Dollar City. I look at it every time I come through there, and I have a real concern that it's not gonna look like what we've seen in the renderings relative to what is there and in the background of it too. And you're looking at IHOP when you're looking at it.
We still have the oval, right?
Sure do. And our concept for the oval is that the oval, the ribbon that goes over the road is that there will be, you know, something that 76 Entertainment District will still be in that, you know, in that actual.
And that material of that ribbon now, has it changed a little? Because what I'm seeing here now is a lot more rust iron look of things.
It's still core tin-like, but, you know, and I think the debate is, you know, we don't think that we want to do core tin proper in some of the areas that go over the road due to it oxidizes and drips and that sort of thing, but it is still core tin-like.
And so help me understand.
That's this material.
This material from that point through there. Because what I remember from before, it was a much shinier looking ribbon going across
Yeah,
there.
it's rustic. It's a rustic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back the other way. Brian, what do you think?
I mean, I like the looks of B the best, but I don't think it's necessary to have that as a primary. My honest opinion is I'm not really a big fan of the ribbon over the road either. As a secondary, I like B as well. But I'm thinking through, you
The
know,
secondary, you like what?
B. I'm thinking through driving through, you know, Pigeon Forge, and I don't know that they denoted their district at all. It is what it is. You know what it is. So, and if the guests don't know what that is, then we probably haven't done a great job of positioning the businesses in the entertainment district anyway. So
Gotcha.
I see it more as just something that's kind of neat, but I don't know that it's anything that needs to predominantly be placed every 10 or 15 feet, 50 yards or whatever. That's my opinion.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't place it
Yeah.
that often, you know that, but we had selected, as I said, I cheated, totally cheated. Admitting that, Jeremy Jackson did this, I cheated. We all as a design team really landed on this one particular item here on the right-hand side on secondary and already incorporated it into some of the other things that you saw in the presentation earlier.
Yeah.
But if we need secondary signage, we felt like it might be a good idea to have at least a couple.
I like that you had it possibly backlit. I would think it move forward to get some lighting, you know, so it's seen at night somehow even on the secondary side, but.
Why can't it just say Branson? I mean, why is it so important that the number 76 is their entertainment district? It almost sounds like we're trying to differentiate it from Branson instead of branding Branson. That was my question when I saw it.
Anything else, Brian?
No.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
Chuck?
Apparently you weren't in order.
Sorry.
Primary A or B.
I don't follow the rules.
They look about the same to me, but I wouldn't do either one on that corner. I would not do a primary on that.
I didn't get it. What was?
Primary A or B, they're similar to me from a primary. If I had to go, B would probably be my top, but A or B is fine. But I wouldn't do it on the corner. I would not put anything on that corner. Just, to me, I think it's a waste of money when you got a billboard that's right behind you, that's always on.
Okay.
From a secondary perspective, how many secondary signs do you have designated for
There won't be a lot. We have a couple of special areas certainly, so we would do that. If we had, we're thinking that there'd be a medallion on street lights at some point that would incorporate something. We thought it would be 76, but if it's Branson or if it's the swoop of Branson or Big B, that's okay with us as well.
So my thought on that is I like B the best
Okay.
on the secondary. But I would get rid of all the secondary signage and just use it on your crosswalk poles and stuff like that, because you're already gonna be branding it that way.
Yes.
You can always back that maybe,
Gotcha.
I don't know if you can or can't.
I agree
Nice.
100%.
But then you're saving the money on the secondary signage because, really, we need to be promoting the businesses and that's
Of course,
right.
you bet, yeah.
And you can utilize that on your crosswalks and, yeah, I wouldn't put the primary in.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with that. I still, and I've said this before, so I'll go beat the same dead horse. And Jeremy, I understand this is not part of your scope of work from that point through there. But before I put any money at that intersection of the Shepherd Hills Expressway, I would look at what you're getting ready to do at 165 and 76. And I would incorporate something there. There's a large piece of land by Walgreens that the cities had several designs to go in there while they were doing previous projects. I would, if it's Steve's wish to do this, I would incorporate you guys. I would hire you to bring this all together. The segment 3 that goes from the Ferris wheel to that stoplight should be redone to match what this is. So you've got a transition from the stoplight that just happens there automatically, but you also have a great photo opportunity of that intersection by Titanic, where all these people, everyone crosses that intersection. And it is in the middle of the 3 districts that we have done. It doesn't serve the end of one or the end of the other. And I would really encourage us to look at budget-wise, what we have to do to bring some of these dollars that you're talking about, Chuck, for the entryway, to bring those to that intersection, incorporated in what's going from there. That is my soapbox for this whole project. I think segment 1 is still questionable about how much we do of the above ground on it. I understand all the utilities, everything from that point through their utility corridor, all that. I'm still not sure that segment 1, if it comes down to a budget call of finishing the concrete, doing all this other, I don't know if it's shorter than it was or not, but it's not a long area through that. So it may not be that big a cost savings from that. But that area to me is more critical, from the Ferris wheel to that stoplight, that intersection, incorporate that would be where I would make a priority of what you all are doing.
I don't think, it's in terms of the primary A, B, and C, I don't know how you can do it, but B would be my top choice, but I can imagine how to be having a fun to have almost a wall of there, because that what that represent is actually what Ozark is. Ozark it means rolling hill. So that's what you did there, but that is also a fence. So it's gonna blocking IHOP, so I don't know how you can do that, but I don't know if you can do without the infill, like maybe just to cut out, be creative in a way so you don't block IHOP or whatever it is, I don't know, but I tend to think the same way with Chuck in terms of that, that area. There's a lot of gray area in terms of, because of that digital sign there, like Steve say, I wouldn't want to see what it looked like. But I think the biggest thing is, of all the 3, I would have to pick B, because they represent what we all want to do. The landscape, the natural landscaping outside, well, that represents what's called the word Ozark, which is a French word for rolling hill. And as far as the secondary, I tend to go with also B, because A, it just becomes long in Branson. It looks too much of, something you see as over city, so, and I work there, so, but I don't know if it belong there, but I think the letters that be readable, kind of like if you look at C, you can't even understand that's actually an entertainment district, the lettering in that guy, in the profile. But I kind of tend to look, cleaner version of the design and try to say who we are in 76. And I don't really care about the design, but I mean, but out of the three, that's probably the, because the other thing that I need to know is what does that look like three-dimensionally?
Sure.
Because I'm only seeing, two-way perspective. And again, what Kathy said is true. I don't know what we should say in terms of the wording inside that thing. That could be interesting because, it is an entertainment district. Is it 76? Is it Branson or what? But, anyway, so I had to pick the primary and the secondary would be B, but I would want to see both on primary and secondary more detail before we confirm and approve.
Yes, of course.
Because we can't, your digital sign is not in there, plus you don't have behind it to see, we're not gonna block that view. And but I think you're going the right way because you're trying to convey Ozark, the rolling hill.
Right.
And so we can do something unique to do that. The question, how do you communicate it in a way that's creative and just, wow, that is a rolling hill, 100%, who we are, Ozark.
Yeah.
So that's about,
Mayor, I have a few ideas. I like Chuck's idea about, for example, that secondary C, not that specifically, but do something, incorporate it throughout the district, like where the crosswalks are. We're already gonna have some natural structure. So double the value of that structure by complementing it with this branding. Steve brought up a really good point. With an intersection of 165 and 76, versus trying to tag both ends of it, seems to make a lot of sense. And I do agree with Kathy. My personal opinion is I would have the verbiage of Branson versus 76 Entertainment District. That would be introducing something new to our visitors that they've never heard of before, and they've heard of Branson for decades.
Okay, Kathy?
Oh.
And Branson too. I heard what you said,
Yeah.
so do that again.
You want me to say it again?
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to know what give them your compelling argument.
Okay, well, I just think 76 Entertainment District doesn't mean anything to anybody. And and maybe I'm coming late to the dance on the whole project, understandably, so, but what are we really trying to showcase? Are we really trying to build the brand and the image of Branson? Or are we trying to also have a identical twin identity of a 76, like what 76? Spirit of 76, 1776? What are we trying to say here? Okay, it's Highway 76. I don't know. I'm just not getting it. And maybe I'm just missing what the conversation was. But as far as, I just want to comment on a couple other things. That's why I think it should just say Branson, but that's just me. Either way, I don't care. At the end of the day, it's not worth fighting over to me. And then I agree with Chuck and Steve and Billy.
I like that.
How'd you like that?
Sounds like a photo thing.
Nice and tight, nice and political. But the 165 conversation, I think, is one that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Because that's very common sense. So I think we'll have to have that at some point.
So close to it,
So, anything else?
No, thank you.
So go back to B, please. How are you gonna light the secondary signs?
they are pillars. So they're actually, I mean, a lot of these are four-sided, and so they'd be lit from the inside.
From the inside. Okay. So I don't remember if it's Anchorage or Fairbanks, but what they do is they lit them from the inside with LEDs that continually change colors.
Right.
It's really cool. So, and then the oval, what's the signage gonna be on the oval? Do we know? Can we do whatever we want?
Oh, yeah, on this,
Yeah,
of course.
okay.
On the ribbon, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm calling it the oval. That's
The
the
oval.
first thing as you go in. So, so the research we did in the past said that the customer did not want us to get rid of the number 76, I think. Am I right?
Yes. Who did it?
The customer, they're like, just call it 76. Okay, they love 76. They've known it for years. They want it to be 76. I think that was what the research said. So it makes me wonder if the answer is really both. And what I would do is figure out the signage on the oval. And then I'd have different signage. And if it were me, I would take the secondary B and at the entrances or there by IHOP, I would just make that big. I'd make it 18 foot tall as an entry. And forget about much as I might love them, I think you can accomplish the same thing by having a monument sign there at the entry that announces something. So that could be Branson, the other one could be Entertainment District or vice versa. I agree with Steve. I think that as part of the next project, there needs to be some big discussion about what do you do in segment 3? Maybe you look at anything we could do with all of it. you know?
Yeah, honestly, I'm less concerned about the rest of it down through there besides the bench in front of our place. Yeah, I know.
That's your second self-serving.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm doing there, but the rest, I just see this, I watch our guests go up and down through there. For me, one of the best improvements on that, as you're looking at that, would be designing the crosswalks similar to what they are in the other segments. Because the crosswalk safety is critical in that.
Yes, it is.
So if that was, as far as sidewalks, things along the sidewalks, people are not too worried about entertaining themselves along through there. The areas that you're putting in there are nice. People are gonna enjoy them. Is it critical to what we're doing? I have my question on that based on what they're doing now, but I do see people walking side by side. I see them sitting on those ugly benches in front of our theater. I'm doing that. But I also watch those crosswalks that are just a nightmare because they don't work most of the time. People don't pay attention to them. So but that intersection, I think is a great opportunity to improve segment 3 in a way that would make some sense for everybody down through it. So,
And it is identified. I mean, the 165 and 76 intersection is identified.
it's already in the budget or some budget.
Yeah, it was new business for me, and since it just keeps coming up again and again, all the design firms are already in, and we're evaluating them as of now.
So are they part of the design firms from that point too?
You guys
We put our
submitted.
qualifications.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I just think, we have an opportunity here to connect that with segment 1 and 2, instead of having a little stepchild in between there.
Absolutely.
Doing that, to be able to bring those together somewhere in this process of that. If it's at the end of the process, just let's don't leave that as it is
No, yeah.
and move on to segment 4.
Yeah, in the design, in the RFQ for qualifications, we put out the spirit of 76 of the entranceway. We also came up with some interior ideas out of Kansas City that were really cool, and a true gateway since it's a 4-way like everyone's talked about. And the city is blazing ahead on that. Now, the design firm that gets selected, of course, will come back and it'll be in new business. I'll ask for 1 or 2 to weigh in on the 3 or 4 companies that put in and see what happens. And then we'll need to talk about money sometime in the future.
So is that part of
for
the city
funding.
discussion though?
Sure.
It's in SID district.
I know it's in the
It's in the
district, but it's.
It's not funded
It's not
by you all.
funded
no.
by the city,
It is
so
not.
that's what I just wanna,
Yeah.
let's don't lose this opportunity
Sure.
to.
I would love to
combine.
take $1 million of your business.
I think
Help
we
it
can buy
along.
that. Well, I mean,
So-
take that and make it 5 million, make it
Sure,
bigger, make it
10
better.
million. I like it.
I've done from that, because in my mind, that's still one of the best opportunities we've got.
It all depends on the scope.
Sure.
You know, because if you've already underground it, you've already got your sidewalks in, you've already got your landscape in, then it ends up being kind of everything else, which isn't the largest part of segment 3.
The undergrounding was not completed in that section. That's where you guys pulled out. It's for new business.
Okay.
So
Okay, we'll do it. Okay. Anything else?
Journey, can I make a quick statement?
I'm sure.
Yes. Just real quick regarding the signage, just because I was a part of putting this all together. I first want to say what a great discussion that was. And I will say I agree 100% with what you all are saying. We really fought the idea of putting something on that corner. Jeremy, I think you would agree with this due to space and view and all of those things. Gail, you might remember back when we talked about what was going to go on the wording on the oval that went over the top. I think we showed multiple things and it came down to, I think, 76 Entertainment District. And then at that time, there was a discussion of maybe we put something Branson over on the ground. That's why these are showing that. I'll just kind of go there. But I do agree with everybody. And I will say, the rolling hills is really a cool effect here. And I just want to point out that we agree with you. I agree with you that signs on corners don't create areas, don't create identity. And if we can stretch this throughout the whole corridor, that will be much stronger. We actually have some areas, and we showed it in some of our perspectives, of Corten steel or Corten steel like edges or landscape edges, or we might be berming up against them. And I'm picturing that we start to put some verticality to these and roll them and maybe 2-layer them. And we can create this option B without calling it a sign throughout the corridor in some locations that's doing us some good, where we need to hold a berm back, where we want to hold back some grade to make it safer so people won't cross the street there, those kinds of things. So I'm hearing you 100%. And I just wanted to make that statement that I think we can get, I heard a lot of B on primary. I think that we can, but no primary sign. I think we can get that look and feel in other ways. I just wanted to say that throughout the corridor and fit it within budget.
Yeah, and the layering allows us, and we've talked about this, Craig, and in our design team meetings, any kind of layering or any kind of separation allows us to come back and light up and create some really cool effects. And so that's a part of our discussion broadly anyway. And this is that's a great way to pull it all together. Thanks,
Yeah,
Craig.
if we put 2 layers of that in, we could put lighting, changeable LED lighting in between them and cast glow in between those layers that highlight that back tallest layer, if that makes any sense. And then we talked about areas where we have one location where we're winding, we had space in the right of way, so we're kind of winding the walkway and we have berms switching side to side. I see this acting as cutting through those berms and creating this rolling effect that you all are talking about.
Craig, Steve, Presley, just keep in mind of that, of also Christmas opportunities.
Yeah.
On those, of how that could be incorporated into it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm not sure you got real consensus. You got a lot of input.
I think we got the input that we needed. I mean, I think, is there a consensus that no entry sign on that corner? I would ask you that question because that does make a difference for me and how we move forward.
I would say no.
No.
There's consensus or no
I
signs?
would say no sign.
No signs. I'm okay with that, yeah.
So I'm just kind of looking around. If that's a consensus, then what that tells me, but as Craig said, would you also agree that you know, that look was something that we've already incorporated that look into the design anyway. And so that layering thing seemed to be a pretty popular stop in the conversation. And so I think, like Craig said, we can work that back in. We already incorporated the, oh, my battery's running low. We already incorporated this pillar in, and so I heard you loud and clear. I think putting it in places where it really is meaningful, like at the crosswalks where we've already incorporated it anyway. And should there be some other, you know, place that needs that, we can take that into. So I mean, I think we've got what we needed, honestly.
And I guess I'm in agreement with Kathy as far as somewhere Branson, if you're gonna do that,
Sure.
I think Branson's gotta be incorporated. And I had a discussion
Absolutely.
about that and the 76th district. I get what they're saying from the research side of it.
Yep.
But people are gonna wanna know, and they're gonna take pictures of things in Branson.
You bet.
Why wouldn't you just change it to Highway 76 with HWY 76 and Branson underneath it?
It's not the name of the street anymore, Chuck.
I understand that.
Highway 76 is now 376 up north of town.
I
It's
think,
70, it's West 76 Country Boulevard is the official name of the street.
It is, it's a long
And that's
one.
way too much.
It's a long one.
outside.
But West 76, W76 Branson.
Well, there's a West 76 that Missouri MoDOT recognizes, North 65
Yeah.
taking the high road.
Well, High Road is now Highway 76. That's
Yeah,
crazy up there.
It is.
Yeah.
It was an unintended consequence of taking that road.
Traffic, yes.
yeah, I mean, in just to.
Okay, so just to clarify, we're sitting here saying 76 Entertainment District, which is not gonna mean anything to anybody.
Well,
Right.
you make it mean something. We've got historic downtown Branson, we've got Branson Landing, we've got Silver Dollar City. I mean, this is a specific defined area by your CID. It's getting some specific attention. That is the 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District. So you just take community improvement out of there and your 76 Entertainment
So
District
what about?
is a pretty natural name for
What
the
about,
area.
and I understand the research, I would be curious to see new research done from customers that was done 7, 8 years ago,
Maybe not.
longer than.
Yeah.
I don't know that 76 means near as much to them as it does to us on Highway 76 and that point through there. That is Branson, at Branson, I think it means a lot. If it's Branson Entertainment District. I guess what I would suggest is, let's look at the research again, and if we need to do a little more research to figure out, that's a critical thing, and we're gonna spend a lot of money for branding and signage on that, we need to make sure we're on target.
Take it back to me, absolutely, because my computer's gonna die.
Research done by the time she needs to decide.
Could be, I mean, if we want to spend the money, we could.
I mean, if you want to brand it what people call it, then you put the strip on it. I don't
Jeez.
think that's the most
No.
appealing name for our family entertainment district.
So,
That's just my opinion, though.
but could we all agree that on the oval, where everybody drives on, at some point in time, it says Branson?
Yes.
Because that's the gateway.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
From a safety perspective, I would like to throw this in. If we end up wrapping the Hawk systems, I ask that they don't change colors. They stay a stationary color or very, very slow or by day. Because it's a distraction when somebody is coming to say, this is an action I need to do to protect them, and if we're gonna invest the money into that system.
You're talking about
never do
crosswalk system?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
I must hate my phone show.
I love your fountain show.
Change colors. all the
Yeah.
time.
Well, you don't have pedestrians walking across there, so.
Yet.
Yeah.
So we basically gave a motion last time. Do you guys want to make a motion?
I'd rather not make a motion, it's just, I would probably vote no, just, I hope they take it in some direction, I don't know if there's a motion here or not.
Okay.
But
I think honestly, I really think that we have enough direction. These were concepts and I needed input from you. We have input, now we can come back and we'll do the same thing. We're gonna make the design decision because I think that's what you want us to do. And then we'll bring it back and we'll put it back in front of you when it's something that's drawn and looks a little bit more construction documenty. That's my word, Chuck.
Okay, you can have it.
Don't look at me like
You
that.
can have it.
It's my
But
word.
it's only yours.
Yes, I know. Nobody else.
He doesn't want it.
The view shed. Okay,
Very
so
nice.
let's, let us move on then and let you get everything you need. Got
Yes,
everything
sir.
you need?
I do. Thank you guys very, very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeremy.
So Paul, and I don't know, I don't see Todd on there. I'm assuming you're going to talk about the bond council?
Yeah, unfortunately, Todd had to drop off. He had a 3:30 call, so he's not on. I guess, did everybody get a chance to review the memo Todd and I prepared?
Yes, I did some job.
We sent out the RFP, sent it to about 7 law firms, got 4 good responses. As noted in the memo, our recommendation would be Gilmore and Bell. They're kind of the preeminent firm. They've got the most Missouri-based CID experience amongst the other respondents. And it just so happened that their bond counsel fee was also the lowest. Tried to explain a little bit in the memo. There's the next step that we'll be bringing back with regard to the underwriter, and we'll get more clarity once those responses come in with respect to disclosure counsel, just different moving parts of the debt transaction. So if you look at that memo, don't worry too much about the far right column, disclosure counsel fee. That may or may not come to fruition. We're just kind of focused on that middle one with regard to the bond counsel fee.
So I would entertain a motion to take their recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Chuck made the motion, Steve seconded it. So discussion, what questions do you all?
I don't have any questions. These guys, I know Gilmore and Bell have been involved with the city for many, many years. And, if that's their recommendation, I have no reason to question that.
Okay. So, Paul, I just have one question. So they've done lots of work in Taney County and lots of work in Branson. So when you hire bond counsel, is that considered a positive or is that considered the possibility of conflict of interest?
I think if you're hiring bond counsel, that's a positive because that means you're going to be needing to issue debt. We asked for any identification of any conflicts, and Gilmore identified none. We are aware that although I don't know the particulars because that would not be proper, but I'm generally aware, and they state they do some work for the city. But since the city's not financially participating in this debt issuance, I'm not aware of any conflict that would arise.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay.
I'll circle back with Sid Douglas and ask him to submit an engagement letter. You can look forward to that being on the next month's agenda.
Okay. Thank you. And state funding request.
We have talked about this in previous meetings, and I just wanted to update the board that Gail and I and a little bit of Jonas Burgess have been contacting a number of our public representatives to A, make sure they're aware of the 76 project, and B, ask for their help, support, and or endorsement should there be public funding opportunities in any form. So we have reached out to, of course, Governor Mike Person's office. Well, you already knew about Carla Esslinger, our Missouri State Senator, who has gone to work for us for some dollars. We've talked to the governor's office. Gail and I had a meeting with Brian Seitz in early February. We met with Senator Eric Schmidt later last month, as well as a couple of folks from his Springfield field office. I had a good meeting with Brad Hudson, who is offering some help as well. Eric Burleson was our March 14th meeting with Gail and I. And Travis Smith, Jonas and I met with him just last week. So trying to cover all those bases, trying to make clear the importance of this project, not just to Branson, but to the state, to the region, to Missouri tourism as a whole, getting some really favorable response. Gail can pipe up, who has been in almost all of those meetings but one, and I think I've been in all except one as well. So just making sure they're aware and making sure they know what an important project it is for Branson and for the whole state. And we get a variety of responses. I'll help you specifically. Brian Seitz asked us to draft a letter that he's delivered to people to influence them in Jeff City. Others have sent us to other entities that have public and grants and that kind of funding available. So we're trying to run all of those trails and see where we can find some free money for the project. So it may end up being zero. It may end up being a few million. We'll be happy with whatever we can track down, and we will stay on it.
Good work.
Any suggestions or any opportunities you all have for talking to those folks or influencing people, let me know. I'm just kind of keeping a tally of who we've talked to, when we've talked to them, and trying to keep in touch and make sure they know we're still here. Really the greatest part of this project isn't maybe the impact financially for the state, but it's the fact that we funded a lot of it ourselves already. We've got a funding stream in place. So really our message is
Tag on.
the sooner you can be a part of the success, the better it's going to be for you, the better it's going to be for the state, and the quicker we can get the economic benefit out of this, because the project doesn't get any cheaper the longer it takes to build it, and it doesn't start producing the revenue that we think it will until we get it built. So they seem to understand that and be very receptive. Billy's been a big help with this too.
Do you have any gut feeling, barometer as to anything that could potentially be that you see?
So, yes, let's do it this way. To you all's credit, we don't have to explain Branson to you. We don't have to explain 76 to anybody. They all have been here, they've enjoyed it, they understand it, they know it's exciting, and does a really good job of laying out the compelling argument as to why we would need some dollars, and then the compelling argument as to what the return could be. So do we have people who still have told us that they are working on our behalf? We do. We have been promised a call with DED, and we wanted to wait till we kind of got our arms around the information they gave to us, because it's like nighttime reading. And and I think there's an effort to look at funds that may be available in the state budget. We have found some things that could be available next year, but the possibility of application ended in February of this year, so we would have, and it's not a lot of funds. So the biggest deal is building the relationship with these people and start the process, because it's not, legislation is not a short process. So I'm not sure that's what the answer you wanted, but
No.
it's positive, okay? And it's to you all's credit, because 76 has a reputation.
So if I can tag, I want to thank you guys for doing that. Alex and I took a trip to Jeff City too, and I think for too long, Branson administration has been absent from the Capitol in the conversations with the legislators, and that's really a lot of the feedback that we heard when we were there. And we did meet with the DED director. Wonderful gal, lots of energy, very positive, loves our community, loves to vacation here. And we got some very positive feedback about it too. So we're working on building those relationships. All the legislators you listed, we met with them as well too.
Good.
So we're planning on doing that with the other key committee members throughout the legislature. So not just our legislators, but you know, some of our legislators maybe don't have really awesome relationships with all the other legislators that are important for us to get what we want.
That's
So we're
true.
trying to kind of navigate.
That's very tactful.
How was that?
We all know what you're talking about, so there you go.
So, but we're working on building those relationships, which has been really positive. So we're trying to do that once a quarter, so we're gonna do like 4 times a year, head up there and be known, and then it's easier to pick up the phone and get a hold of them, so. But thank you guys for doing that too. So I think letting us know when you guys have meetings coming up too, there's a way we can tag on or something, you know, anything we can do to help be supportive too, we appreciate that.
Well, and just kind of tag on that, Branson used to have really good relationships with the people there. The reality is, all those people are gone.
Right,
Terminus.
yeah, yeah,
They're gone from that point to their Rand spent many hours in Jeff City up there
yeah,
doing that and develop those relationships. But now none of those people are in the same, they're there.
right.
And so
It's a
yeah,
constant thing.
you got to keep doing it. So kudos, that's really important.
Yeah, it's easy for them to forget us if they don't see us.
Right.
And especially if if they're new coming into it. they don't know what's up.
Does the city have a lobbyist now?
Yeah, Prodigy and Associates.
Has he been there a while?
Yes, very established.
Okay.
And very popular by all accounts, what we could see in the Capitol. It was a busy day. Everybody knew our guy.
Good.
I mean, it's just,
That's critical.
what's
Chris
that?
Ropey,
Chris
RJ,
Ropey.
and John Barjay.
Everybody just calls him Ropey.
And they're kind of a bipartisan group.
Yeah,
I think actually John is more leans towards the Democratic
John's
side.
definitely a gem.
So he's got great support and his staff are excellent and are very entrenched in Jeff City. Chris Ropey, Roepe, and then John Barjay is the owner of Barjay and Associates.
Chris, a guy or the?
Guy.
Anything
That's
else?
all I have.
Okay. Yes, website.
That will be a very quick update, due to technical issues beyond my control. I was unable to get the agreement secured with the web firm. My hard drive crashed and I'm still trying to recover. So, that happened at a bad time for me to get the agreement to Paul, to get it okay, looked over before it came to you guys. So next month, we will have that done. One way or
Good
another.
luck on that hard drive.
Oh, gosh, it's been.
Quite bad.
But life does go on without a computer, I've learned.
Yeah.
Hard way.
You lose your iPhone, see what happens.
Well, yeah, exactly. I've been very dependent on this little guy. All right, that's all, sorry.
Well,
So a month
and
late, but
and
I'll
you're
get it
the
next
one
time.
crafting the contract.
Right.
Yeah, and so,
I was halfway through and lost it, so.
city incentives for businesses to improve their West 76 properties. Any movement from the city, any more discussion?
So we've had a number of internal conversations with legal counsel, our economic development team, and getting something drafted. We're gonna do possibly a community survey first, throughout the city to understand, obviously some of the residential and, business owner needs. I think this is an important step to engage our community and stakeholders, right, in this. So we plan on launching that here pretty soon. And ultimately we'll bring back a economic development proposal that includes a lot of great ideas. I know the board has expressed a lot of interest in the welcome, I call it now the Welcome to Branson segment of 76 that's currently undeveloped off the highway. That's an interest, of course, that is, I think received excellent support from the mayor during a lot of the conversations.
So what is
So-
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of things on the table. We're just gonna we'll have a proposal here to leapfrog and continue to develop Branson the best we can.
Okay. So, any of that discussion related to how we incentivize businesses on 76 to improve themselves?
That's included in the discussion.
Yeah,
for
it's all
sure.
part of the conversation.
So, because we've been in some stakeholder meetings and I asked Paul, we So when we get into these meetings, we start to have discussions about things like sidewalks and signage and that kind of thing. And so I asked Paul if he could arm us with what can the CID really do? What can we really spend money on? And Paul, I think, can you kind of go through just the real basics of what abilities does the CID have as far as spending dollars when it comes to property of others?
Specifically, segment 7A.
Yeah, or 1 and 2, I guess, yeah.
You're talking about the current segment.
I'm talking about the current segment.
I'm sorry.
Well, it would be all of the segments.
I thought you were asking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
7A.
Well,
Well, so I guess keep in mind the role of the 76 CID is to be the funding mechanism for the CID project. The CID project is, at least right now, segments 1 and 2 starting to take shape with what you saw the last couple hours with regard to Jeremy. So things that are part of that project design, the CID is going to pay for or reimburse for, whatever the backroom mechanism is on that, the bonds or whatever. So, I don't know exactly how to say it, but if something's part of that approved project design, it's going to be part of the project cost, and the CID revenues are going to be paying for that through the debt issuance, the principal and interest on the debt service. If something, property owner improvement is not part of the CID project design, then your revenues aren't going to be paying for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're paying for the CID project.
Okay, so once the scope of the project's set, we're set, basically.
I would say that's generally fair. And, I know Jeremy has talked about trying to work within the right of way, that kind of is a visual boundary, if you will, of the project. Now, not to say down the road, Michael, Jeremy may not need temporary construction easements or whatnot for grading and this and that. But when you're looking at somebody said, what are the boundaries of the project? You're going back to Jeremy's designs and, I don't know, Michael probably has more knowledge about, I don't think it's fully contained within the right of way. I think she colored outside the lines here and there, but you get the gist of that becomes the definition of the CID project. That's what you're going out to bid for eventually. And then the bonds are going to pay for that, and the revenues are going to repay the debt on the bonds. So that's what you're paying for.
It's important what he highlighted, that anytime she drew outside the lines, we're asking for right of way and guarantee that what's in the right of way is truthfully and respectfully part of this project, including anything left behind or put into it or whatever, because that's taxpayers' money is not going to the private side, but it becomes right of way.
Okay.
So it's a double agreement.
Yeah. So Mayor, what I was really asking about is on 76, the segments that the CID is doing, did the city talk about anything that could be done to incentivize those businesses? We're spending all the money on the infrastructure and making it great for the people. Is there anything that the city's had discussions on what to do to incentivize the businesses to, somehow plant landscaping or somehow do some improvements to their property?
We haven't had any specific discussions on segments 1 and 2 or the CID area in particular. It's more broad to cover all businesses within Branson, so those businesses would be included. And so we're looking at coming up with a global plan that would provide incentives for any business, but not specifically flowers, trees, 76.
Well,
We're more focused on the segments 7 and 8. There's a lot of interest from the board. Let's clean up that entry.
you would think that with the amount of money and things that the CID are putting into their different segments, that the businesses would want to help themselves out as well. I mean, that should be incentive enough, right? To a certain extent. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
They went out there
Yeah.
and cleaned up in front of the Wax Museum, and we dropped, $500,000 on plane, car,
For sure.
additional landscaping, everything else that we did.
And the customers love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's just, yeah.
they did their part, we did our part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you would think that that would be
Yeah,
a
that looks
benefit to the
great.
property owners. So,
It's also important to look, when we start entering into developers agreements, there has to be a what-for analysis, right? But for public incentives, that project wouldn't proceed. I don't know that the scope necessarily of what you're asking probably fits within our economic development discussions. We think that's more beautification, right? Which should probably be more of the role of like a CIDS type of incentive. But I think the board's focus, of course, is expansion, modernization, attracting more tourists, whatever that might be for, depending on what part of town it's in. I don't know that, I don't say minimal investments, but let's just say less than $100,000 investments on a given property would really fall within the scope of the developer's agreement or an economic development proposal. Full transparency and disclosure.
And there are plans, like state legislatures often come up with plans, of Main Street beautification type programs and whatnot. So we're open to all those things. It's just like what the mayor was saying and Alex. For now, we're trying to put the skeleton together to have kind of that broader look. And then we're gonna get into putting the muscle on the bone here as we keep moving forward to come up with specific programs. So it's a journey.
yeah, I'm sure that's right.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of vehicles, right? They're all coming.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions about that? Thank you, Paul. You gotta step down.
So you guys.
Okay, discussion regarding appointments to fill vacancies and expired terms. So it was requested that I put this on here, and I made quite a bit of discussion with board members. And really, Larry, what I wanted to do was give you the opportunity, because this process is different than we've done in the past. And just tell the board what you want to accomplish. What's your goal?
I think it starts and ends with openness and transparency. All right, we all talk about open transparency. We want the city to be more open. I think everybody in this room wants the city to be more open and transparent. Sometimes maybe being open and transparent is uncomfortable. These seats are on a 4-year renewal.
Three, I believe. Four. Is it four?
Yeah.
Okay, four.
No
wonder.
I didn't tell you that when I talked you into it.
So when we talk about open and transparent, our board is very convinced that it is open and transparent. So my question to you guys that are on this committee, if you weren't on this committee, and this committee was meeting for however many years it's met, how would you feel? Wouldn't you feel better if you knew that this committee has applications that are up for renewal that are open to be filled to continue with this project? I'm looking at a room full of really smart people.
I guess my question is there something that we're currently doing that is not that? And I understand.
I didn't say that.
I understand the
I did not say
application process and totally get from that point through there. I guess I'm having trouble understanding. And you have not made any appointments at this point. It'll be yours for the board, correct? That's what that goes from that point through there. So you have not made any recommendations. You're looking for applications from that point through there. So I'm just gonna jump in here. I guess what I saw today was a really good discussion of very important items about a lot of money. And I was impressed with Great Rivers' change, I believe, and that's probably to Michael's credit, change in attitude change in how they readjusted what they had there. I got, quite honestly, I was pretty frustrated when I got that at 9:30 last night before this meeting, because I had Silver Dollar City this morning. I left Silver Dollar City to go home to look through this, plan that was sent there. I was pleasantly surprised that it had changed pretty dramatically in my view of what they were looking at, what they were doing. The discussion we've had today, I come out of this feeling much better. I'll be real, I've had discussions. I'm really on the border whether I'm gonna file an application or not. Two things. One, I've been frustrated in processes of what that is, and I shared with Kathy. I didn't know who was in charge of this project. I thought Great River was driving this project more than the city was. I have a different sense of that now. I think you guys have made some great headway in that. So I came out of that, but the second part of that is, and some of you do, some of you don't, just to point out, I'm at in my life, I'm not playing the show anymore. So
When did that start?
End of December. I retired, 56
Wow.
years
Wow.
of doing that. So it's freed my schedule up. And so part of my consideration is, do I want to tie myself up with an application to come in and do this for, I thought it was 3 years, now it's 4 years from that point.
They
to
go
there.
by so fast.
They go by way too fast. But I have a really, in my heart, I think we've got a really good team together. I don't know that there's anything from the emotional, from the community side of it, that we're not being transparent from that point through there. I think Gail has done an excellent job in leading this. Do I agree with Gail all the time? No, I don't. I'm doing that, but we have those discussions. I don't agree with everybody for that. I'm very happy to see Chuck in this room. I know his schedule doesn't allow him to be here, but Chuck's input, Brian's input, and Billy's input is important in this. And so I guess I will end with saying, if there was the opportunity for us to continue what we're doing, especially at this critical point, changing this board up, and you asked about the community. Is anybody really concerned about the board? I guess you'll find out when you get applications in from that, if anybody's really interested in stepping in this role. It's not an easy role. The chairman role takes a lot of time. I have no interest in doing that. But I do have interest in being involved in these discussions and the points where we can have an impact on what's happening on this project. So I would encourage you to really think about the team that we've got together and how we move forward. Our discussion with Billy is qualified he is on the Board of Adjustments, correct?
Appeal.
Board of Appeals. So he is a city appointment. So we clarified, I believe that before. So he is, I guess, eligible to be on that board. Maybe not clarification from your attorney, but anyway, so I would encourage you to look at this strong team we've got together.
So I appreciate everything you just said. And I think we've got strong leadership on this board. And we're making $100 million decisions, right? So, but I also think we have a great board of aldermen. So I don't think we should go to vote because we've got a great board of aldermen, right? That are running, they're blowing and going, and we're all in sync and we're just knocking things out. So let's not have an election next year. No, that's what I know, but that's what I heard.
Okay.
What I heard was this is a great team, let's not mess it up.
Here's my answer to that.
Okay.
Take the applications in, do it from that point. Look and see what you got. I guess my question is there a need, I guess what I heard from you is there's a need for another city person to be in the seat that Billy's in, correct?
Yeah, just to go back to, we're trying always, and you guys have heard this from me before, trying to always go back to the foundational documents. Let's get back to what was the core setup of the structure and the rules of the game so that we're all in accordance to how it's was originally envisioned. So that's all we were trying to do.
You have to read this
Well,
part.
and we've done that.
I was
His
a city,
appointment as a city has done that. It's in there.
But I mean,
Three of the directors shall consist of either elected officials, appointed officials, or employees of the city, each a city director.
He's an appointed
He's
official of
appointed
the
to the
city
Board of
because he's
Appeals.
on the Board of Appeals. He's appointed to the Board of Appeals.
And how he got on was, we got and the mayor will remember this, I'm sure, we got the list of all the people who were on the committees. And we looked at the board of aldermen and the stakeholders and then recommended to Larry that Billy be the guy. And I kind of remember because I think you called me and said, who's Billy Ault?
That's right, I did not know.
And I said, well, you know, he's like the guru of Silver Dollar City for development. And
I've learned that since.
yeah, and so being on the board of adjustment qualified him. And my sales pitch for Billy is you gotta go long and far to find somebody who's gonna have to bring what he brings to the city.
Of course, and just that this isn't about Billy.
Yeah.
Billy knows how I feel about him, my immense respect and I would say friendship that we're developing, which is very much a treasure to me. This isn't about that. I understand how that's being interpreted at the time when Billy was appointed, and we respect that. The mayor, and we've had these conversations about what was the implied intent, let's put it that way, which would be to have city proper representation and 3 of the chairs. That's all.
Yeah,
So
I think
it's
that's
a-
your interpretation, but I don't.
That's
So-
right.
So now we have an appointment, an elected and a staff, and that's what's in the.
So, I understand, and it ought to be submitted from that point through there. I'll be real honest, I haven't decided what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And so that may clarify, you may get multiple applications. You know, I think you're probably gonna get 2 applications from these guys. I hope that moves forward. I'll make my decision. I don't know yet, but it's one of those, if this is my last meeting, if that's what I decide at this point, it's been a great honor to be in this. I feel like today has made some, you know, I got on my soapbox about the Highway 76, 165 intersection. I heard I saw a lot of heads nodding on that. If that's what I go out with and that's looked at as consideration, I will feel I've been successful in what I did here.
So, Steve, is by putting out application for the open positions, is that caused you to consider that I don't want to be on this board? I mean, was that a decision?
More in that there's only gonna be 2 spots. There's 3 of us that are on this board and you're only gonna fill 2 of those spots. That is my
That's the
question.
same way with me, I mean.
Yeah, that is my question. Yeah, and so, you know, from the transparency side, it should go through, you should do everything as what's big. I believe the interpretation is that you would qualify from that point through there. If it comes down that there's only going to be 2 people in that, then, you know, my decision's pretty easy, honestly, from this point, so it's good.
So have you guys fill out the application?
I haven't yet, I think I got till Tuesday, I believe this one.
No, April 2nd, yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday, yeah. I got till
And
Tuesday.
I have not done either because I just wanted to hear what everybody think.
Sure.
This meeting was critical to me in that process.
Yeah, and also, you know, I want to help, I want to be there, I'll offer service and all that stuff. But I don't want to, you know, ruin the dynamic that's already there. There are a lot of people, I'm the newbie in the whole team, you know. So I understand that, so I think, I'm echoing the same thing what Steve's saying. I thought our team was a real good team, like everybody brings, you know, I don't ever see anything that being brought to the board that somebody vote against it, pretty much usually is unanimous for it, and there's a lot of great discussion. And they're not like bad discussion like somebody did like particularly one thing, another, or whatever, you know.
It's not any hidden agendas. that I see.
Yeah,
No, and I agree with that. By putting out for application, under the openness and transparency, is not saying anything about the camaraderie that this group has.
No, I get from that point through there, but it is pretty clear that there's only gonna be 2 seats filled of the three, because, you know, I'm not on anything involved with the city, from that point through there. Gail's not on any boards at that point through there. Billy is the only one on the board of appeals. So he's the only one on that maybe quasi qualifies. The interpretation we had before that he did. Maybe he does. If he doesn't, then that makes that real easy from that point through there. That's the question from that point, in my mindset.
Can I pipe in on a little bit of
Absolutely.
background? So, and maybe I'm the oldest one on this board,
Well, you and me both. I think Gail and I were in day one with CFS Engineering at their office down here and kind of were involved with the whole
That was the
setup.
good old days, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
gosh.
Yeah, it was
My
brutal.
backside
It
is
was
less
brutal.
now than it was.
So we were involved with the discussion of the joint use easement agreement and the cooperative agreement with the city and, everything that was involved there. And what the original vision was that the city had the ability to have their 3 people, right? And then the stakeholders had the opportunity to have their 4, so that the stakeholders always felt like they had a really strong say in the project because of how the city handled the project the very first time.
That's what I heard too.
So that was huge through that process. And probably something that has probably rubbed me wrong. And don't get me wrong, Mayor, I agree 100% with transparency. I agree 100% that application process should go through.
Okay.
Absolutely. But when I'm reading through the documentation on the city website of the application process and what the next steps are, it doesn't bring anything up about how we get to see who those applications are as stakeholders and make recommendations, which is something we have always done. And something that I believe it states something in the cooperative agreement about the stakeholders being able to make recommendations to the mayor as to who they would feel would be best on the board.
Sure.
And that's probably my biggest struggle on this whole thing. Now, granted, another huge struggle would be losing Gail, in my opinion. I don't know that there's another person on this board or that could come into the board that has his knowledge and has the amount of time that he puts into this. Because there's no way I could be a chair on this board. Just, it's not feasible. And I don't know, Brian couldn't do it either. So, if for some reason Gail wasn't brought back, we're gonna be looking at one of the city people to be the chairs. Because it's not something I could physically, or Brian could physically. And he brings so much to the board. But that's probably my biggest struggle on this has been not the transparency, not the application process. Absolutely, please do. I'm getting ready to probably throw in an application to stay on planning and zoning. So, I get it. I've been on it.
You're in my case?
Well, no, I've been on it for a while.
I know.
I feel like I do well with it and I enjoy it and I feel it's something that I'll continue doing if you guys will appoint me back. Anyways, that's not about this. That part of us being able to make that recommendation and, us as stakeholders be able to have somewhat of a say as to who comes in. That's probably been the biggest issue that I've had and the biggest concern that I had. Because as soon as it popped up, I went on the website, read it all. And I was like, well, it goes from city clerk to the mayor to make an appointment. And I was like, well, when does it come to the stakeholders for our
You guys
recommendation?
you get to submit a slate of your recommendations to the mayor.
Yeah, but we want to know the
But
applicant.
right, I was just gonna say, that's actually a really,
Because we can give you a recommendation. If they don't make an application by next Tuesday, then,
Right.
It doesn't do us any good to make recommendations, right?
yeah,
But
no,
isn't that the way that would work, is if you had somebody who you thought would be good,
Mhm.
you would
Yeah.
suggest that they fill out the application.
Absolutely, agree with that.
Right.
But I feel that for the stakeholder positions,
Yeah.
that we should at least be able to recommend to you who you should appoint. Now, do you have to follow that? Absolutely not. You do whatever you feel is
Can I
best.
read what it actually says? 'Cause
It's in the bylaws. It's
in the
3-3.
petition, initial board of directors. It talks about the proposed district will be governed by a board of directors, 7 members, got it. Initial board of directors, which are 4 of the directors shall consist of property owners, representatives, or owners, et cetera.
Mhm.
City directors are the remainder. Subsection 2, successor directors. All successor directors shall be appointed by the mayor with the consent of the board of aldermen and serve for a term of 4 years. Fulfilling a term of stakeholder director, the board of directors may provide a slate of candidates to the mayor for consideration in appointing a successor director to the stakeholder director position. The mayor may appoint someone from the slate, or the mayor may also appoint an otherwise qualified person to the stakeholder director position, subject to the consent of the Board of Aldermen.
And that's completely understood, and that's fully, there was no questions on that, but what I'm just bringing up is that, you know, our slate, if, you know, should be out of the application process.
So
Yeah,
you're
we should-
saying you
we
guys
should-
should get to see the applications that come in
For the
to the
stakeholders,
city for the stakeholders.
for the stakeholders.
And then based on those and the people that are already on, and then you know, right, that you're like, okay, here's our recommendation.
Yeah, and then the mayor can make the decision on whether or not it's one of them or, you know, somebody that didn't even put in an application from the sounds of it. As long as they're a stakeholder, as long as they're an owner representative, an owner of the property, or I forget the last.
Well, and I just, as I think
A
about
voter in the district, right?
even if I do an application, if that comes to a point that I'm appointed, but I'm not in agreement where that's at, I don't have to take, I can resign that position and you can reappoint somebody. So there is, you know, there is room for hopefully to, things to work out where I think would be in the best interest of this community, but if they don't, then I'm not gonna make that decision.
That's not a 4-year sentence.
Right.
It might be a 1 hour sentence.
When did it start? When did we start this?
2 weeks ago, it's a Tuesday.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
2015, I'm gonna say, I have to look at my notes.
16.
Was 16, was it?
18 was.
Well, to your point, back on where the board had involvement in that and picking that was at one point, in fact, it would have been 2015, because I was going to be appointed on the board. Karen Best came in as mayor at that point. She did not want me on that board. Quite honestly, she did not. And Nolan Vogel, they both voted against me being on that board. And so I didn't come on the board at that time for that very reason.
Actually, the one that made the appointment to you.
That's right, yeah, you did come.
Oh, I
So-
remember Nolan was on it. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. Yeah, and but he cited, and his explanation was, the mayor's put the team together, the mayor ought to be able to have who they want on the team. I didn't disagree with that, but I was not, so I had 5 years or 6 years of not having it, so.
Yeah.
And long meetings.
Is this term kind of in like, in your next CID board meeting will have consistent, the new board? The new CID will be the same thing. So this is the last meeting for summer. right?
Is there enough time to do that? Because you'll have to have 2 votes from the board of aldermen after the appointment, correct?
No, I don't.
It's just
think
like a
so.
single vote?
Yeah.
I think it's
Board of
just, yeah,
Aldermen.
it's just approval.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
it had to be a double vote or not. Okay.
Again, appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that. Steve.
It's been really good, and, you know, I'll figure out where I'm headed from this, but, the project is on a very good path.
Hey, Paul?
Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there. Paul?
I'm here. Yes.
Well, when will the appointment be made? April 9th.
Next board meeting.
That, and it'll go into effect on that time period as well? Okay.
Should be effective then.
Okay, so we'll just need to, okay.
Can I get clarification on something that I think has been unclear? And maybe it's my misunderstanding, but the document that's online on your portal says that the person has to be a resident or a voter in the district or the state of Missouri or a property owner?
Correct. Or someone who is a representative of a business.
Right, or a representative of the property owner.
Owners, yeah, it has to be an owner's
So-
representative.
So
of the
that
business.
document does not say that a resident of the district can be on this board. What you just read, it does not say that. State statute. State statute.
Well, when we first formed the district, we had an option of forming it with the vote of the people. The residents of the district were property owners. We formed segment 3, there wasn't any voters in that segment. Part of the reason we formed it there, it was property owners. So my understanding, and that's what I thought maybe Paul would know for sure, is that that meant that board members were representatives of those property owners, not of voting residents within the district, because we have a lot of property owners within the district that don't even live in the state of Missouri, certainly don't live and vote in the district, right?
Yeah.
So that would really limit our choices if they had to be both, and I don't think we've ever thought they could just be a voter in the district. They had to be a property owner. If you lived, now that the district's been expanded, there would be opportunities for somebody to have a rental house somewhere in the district and not own property.
Or a property owner's representative, they could nominate to be someone in that.
Right. They could,
Yeah.
but that a property owner could nominate anybody to be their representative.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as they're, I think, 18
Yeah.
years of age or something maybe.
That's right.
Yeah.
But because the district was formed with property owners, that's who represents the district, not voters in the district. You'd be a voter in the district. I don't know where all of you live, but you don't live in the district. Chuck doesn't live in the CID.
I'm the only legal one. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, so if people are looking at that application process and think they have to live in the district and own property in the district, you may not get any applications because those would be very few people.
We have received several,
Oh, have you?
yeah, so.
And Paul, is there a requirement for living in the district, and is that requirement enough by itself to be on this board?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't had time to look at the issue. I mean, I'm looking at the
I thought you
petition
just
and
learned off
obviously,
other CIDs.
and, you know, Alex read the language.
Would you like the RSMO, Paul, if that's helpful?
I can look it up. I know where it's
Yeah,
at.
I looked that up and it said or, one or the other. But I thought that or was determined by how the district was formed, not just, it could be either one, however. Because there is an opportunity to form a CID with voting members of the district. Okay, that's the way it was explained to us years ago, so it may have been an error then, or it may be right, I don't know.
Well, we find out before, because I mean, I'm taking direction of,
Yeah,
you know, here's the rules. I'm not interpreting the law.
we've talked with Lauber about all this.
Oh, yeah.
Before- Yeah, oh, yeah. before
Well,
we-
he knows CIDs as well as anyone.
Yeah,
Interesting. So you could be just a resident
yeah,
in the
that's,
CID
that's,
and be
the
on
way
this
we've
board.
got it posted has been run through Lauber and they check through everything, so. And I, you know, I'm just gonna say this part, I don't want anybody to, I mean, it's an emotional thing and it's a feelings, it's a personal thing that this is being received as, and I'm sorry that it's being received that way, because that's not the intention.
Yeah.
I have tremendous respect for the amount of time and energy and resources and brain power and time away from your businesses that you all spend on this board. You can't put a monetary value on that. It's really a giving of your spirit to the community, so it's not about that. This is really about the business of government, and I am very much about I know we keep saying the word transparency, but integrity in a process, and going back to the clear original intention, and let's get back to the basics. And if we do that, we're all gonna be singing Kumbaya all the way to the finish line on this stuff. And there isn't any more gray areas that we can argue over. So that's why we went through that whole mishmash at the beginning. We were pumping the brakes, because I felt like Great River was running the show, and Steve and I had that conversation. It's like, this is all out of whack, the power balance is all upside down here. Pardon me, but I don't want anybody to think that this is some kind of maneuver, some kind of retribution thing. I don't have any retribution to seek against Gail, the mayor doesn't have any retribution to seek against him or any one of you or Billy. Gosh, you know, so I'm sorry if you're taking it that way, it's not that. It's really just the business of government and getting back to the way we believe, and by other interpretations that we're relying on, it was supposed to be. That's it.
Well, and I was just saying my point, if I don't reapply, it's not that I don't trust what's going on from that point through there. It is really gonna be a personal decision, where my time and where I'm at from that point through there. And, again, I feel really good what came out of this meeting today. I think it's on a great path from there, and so I'll look at options from there, but if I don't apply, don't think it's personal against anybody.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm gonna take it personal.
Oh, wow, he's personal, she's not talking to you.
And Chuck, I'm counting on you to keep our Gary on target and.
I'm planning on throwing in my hat one more time, so if it happens, it happens.
When does that come up?
You know, so appointments are done, I think, some point in April, because it takes Well, no, I think the appointment end of April for May.
Yeah.
It's,
Wow.
so I don't know exactly because it was brought up the last board meeting. And I know that I am still on planning through the April meeting, but the appointments I believe are prior to the May meeting. Or maybe shortly thereafter. I don't. But I've been on the website to try to put my application in. It's not there yet.
Not there yet?
So.
Okay, we'll check into that.
Well, my 2 cents is basically, I know that I have a lot of respect for Susan, Gail and Steve, and I know that, of course, like I said, I'm the newbie in the whole process, but one time I was talking to Steve, and said, well, I don't bring as much as you do, I don't have the same background. I say, no, you do. Because there's stuff that he looks at are really detailed and a lot of stuff, and he understands because he lives in the second free, ER. So, and then, for scale, I mean, I'm like Chuck, I'm not, if I do, submit my application, I don't want to be chair, that's for sure. I have projects on, that's a jazz.
So how does the chair get chosen? Short term?
Same way it does for pretty much any other board.
Yeah.
Just board votes to nominations and the board votes on the nominations and then.
But you have to have someone willing to step into that role.
Yeah,
That's really.
That's what I'm talking about. Short
It's-
straw.
yeah.
Well, and
Doesn't show up for the meeting.
No, not at all.
Oh, yeah, don't miss that meeting.
Exactly.
My deal is, my point is just, I have a lot of respect for these guys, and especially, background and the input they bring to the table is very, very valuable. And I know I come with a different perspective, because I know I do, Jesus come not to be served, but to serve right there. I'm here to serve. But if there's too many things, I can move to a different area. I think the biggest thing is I just want to make sure that, that how much these guys are. They do bring a lot to the table, and, so that's another thing I said. I know you guys, this is an important, this is CID, this is a lot of eyes and ears gonna be on this project. And we just, and we're also in a critical junction. But I also understand about the whole process. I understand that because you're sitting there, you are running up the city, so you have to follow the rules and all stuff. But I just want to say, my piece is just say, I don't know if Steve's complaining too, I did remind him with this age that 4 years gonna be. It's kind of scary.
I'll be 72, I got it, so. I've got 3 years now, man, come on yourself.
So anyway, but I really appreciate Gail and Steve, and I'm not saying anything with Chuck and Frank is already in there, so I'm just saying, there's the guys that we are, the 3 guys that are gonna be, re-elected back to the position, so anyway, that's just want to say that.
Thank you.
So Mayor, here would be my encouragement. First of all, I don't believe the chairman gets the short straw. This is a great board. If I had to put everybody together, if I had to handpick, this is the dream team. You're not gonna go very far and find anybody that's better than these guys in skill set. And it really depends on what you want. So I disagree with Kathy, not at the spirit of the community, because this is a community project with skill set. And in the past, when the city got too intrusive, they either slowed it down, cost too much money, or they screwed it up. Right? That's what really happened.
On segment 3.
Yeah, that's right. And so the stakeholders basically took over. Okay, so where are you today? Well, the stakeholders went through 3, maybe 4 mayors. They went through 3 engineering firms. They went through 3 engineers. They went through 3 finance directors. And so what really happened? Well, we took on some of the dollars of that the city had overspent, said we'd reimburse. We got the thing on financial fiscal responsibility. We have a bonding plan, and late to the game, the CID was going to be the bonding agency. And so we hired Todd. I think everybody feels good about that. I think we feel good about the fact that Great River Engineering, of the three that were hired, Great River Engineering is by far the best option we've ever had. And Michael, frankly, of those three, and I don't mind telling you, he's the best of the three engineers I've had to deal with. Okay, primarily because he knows how to deal with people, okay? And he understands the importance of this. And he was a manager. He's managed. And the other guys, sometimes all they do is teach. Right? So now you have a timeline. We're basically, in my world, we're at the point where we're picking drapes and carpet. Okay, that's really where we're at. And so you gotta have to be. My wife told me a long time ago, you don't mess with happy moments. And so I think the confusing part is, and the discussion these folks basically had with me is, it really looks like we have three qualified people who are doing a great job. We're gonna have two places. And I think based on the discussions they've had with me, if we had to give you a slate, Billy would be the city representative, and Steve and I would try to go to the other. And I would be the first to tell you that I'm not perfect. But am I okay being the chairman of this? Yes, because we all want a good project. And I also know that all these guys are going to tell the truth. You know, it's a good board. In the past, we've had some people on here and it was not a good. And you know what these guys did? They figured out how, in one deal, we figured it out where not enough people came to have an election so that the politics couldn't get in the way of the project. Okay, and so that's the context of where we really are today. So I think people were confused when it's like, okay, now all of a sudden we have three people that the city wants to go into two slots. What are we going to do with that? And so I appreciate their kindness and I appreciate the passion that they bring to that. But I'd rather we didn't have to deal with that. I don't know that you're going to find anybody that has more skill set than Billy on the city side. Now, we can look at the committee structures again, like we did last time, and we can see if there's anybody else on there that makes sense. But you want skill set if you want this to be a project. And so there's probably a little fear of the past, and I know we have all new people. But I just give you the encouragement of don't mess too much with the happy baby because you don't want to screw this one up. And here's your caveat. Here's your next click point that you want to make sure that we address properly. We got to open bids, right? We got to open bids. We've said 34 million. I don't know if it's going to be 34 million. Thank heavens we're going to have about 9 million in the bank. It's going to give us some flexibility. Well, that's really a good thing. Right? Okay. So I'm sorry. That's kind of
And pay all our debts in that process.
Yeah, that's kind of my diatribe. I'm sorry. What else do we want to convey? That's a fun discussion.
Well, it's only not only the three that we're gonna, what they submit, but you said that there's already several that are already submitting.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, it's just not just.
Yeah.
So we might even get it.
Yeah, the teachable moment is this discussion should have happened before they made the decision to do.
Well, Gail, I gotta say now, we've been treating all the committees and commissions this exact same way since I got here.
And you could have, but this
Right.
discussion should have happened before.
I
you
didn't
did.
know that we would have to get, it never occurred to me, so I'm gonna take that on me, okay? But as running the city and trying to get more and more people from our community involved and engaged in the things going on around them, I'm not thinking about who do I need to touch base with first when I'm doing this with all the committees and the commissions. So this isn't an isolated case. We're treating every one of these committees the exact same way. And I'm delighted that we've got people that are actually applying for this. Because while we might think we have the perfect soup right now, there might be somebody else out there that could bring an amazing talent that hasn't even been experienced yet by your board. So new blood, new ideas, fresh eyes aren't always a terrifying thing. And I would hope that y'all don't look at it that way if that's how it ends up going. But for all I know, you could all be sitting here again the next time we talk. I have no idea what the mayor and the board are gonna decide. But my job is to make sure the community knows there's opportunity and that we welcome their interest. But to think that I would have to come to you first and discuss it first, I'm sorry, I'm gonna fundamentally disagree with that. I'm kind of offended by that, because there's a lot of other things going on in the city that I don't have time to run around and touch base with each chairman and go, by the way, we're opening up, you know, opportunities here now, just so you're aware. It wasn't meant as an offense to you, so you should not take it that way.
Okay. I
Okay?
didn't take it that way. I understand exactly what you're doing. You know, we were all notified from that point through there,
Yeah.
so there's still, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't take it that way.
Thank you, I'm
Just,
glad. So it certainly wasn't meant that way.
Okay, anything else on that particular set? Okay, so we'll have to decide if we're. Introduction of any new business. I heard you say you have new business.
I do. I have three quick items and in incorporation of time, I'll be very quick. So Universal's who we hired for easements and stuff like that. Tim Bunkers would like to present maybe a quick 15 minutes to show where he is. We gave it notice to proceed. They're done with task 1 and 2. We thank Ann for taking the.
Hold on a second.
Sorry, I have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've also just want to make sure you have a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was worried
Okay,
about too.
okay, thank you guys.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
So who is that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Tim Bunkers from Universal. So he just won like a 15-minute spot. I actually asked him, is the company that's getting all your easements.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, they're rocking and their product is awesome. I just want you guys to see it. It's another moving piece that y'all have approved along with the city. And I want to take a couple seconds with that. 176 and 76 came up multiple times today. I would like, you know, we're in a transition phase here that if 1 or 2 board members would like to review the RFQs with us. We've done that for downtown. We've done that for multiple segments. We did that for Universal. It's something I would like, and that time is now. So please be thinking out about that and either reach out to Ann if somebody would like to review. Who put in was Bartlett West. Oh.
I would just encourage you to include this in.
Absolutely. And that's always been my stance for every project is the boards are very important to making sure that the rudder is correct.
Part of the city district.
That's right. Bartlett West, CJW and Great River. So I couldn't say that when she was here. So just because of the way it is. And the last but not least item, the gentleman that came in to spend some time with us longer than you probably imagine is Tom from the Toy Museum and Mr. Ron Newman. And I'm just going to present your project on a real rough grade and we'll fill in the other points. The Toy Museum and our console's online too, Holly's online, has a train that's there. And there were some ideas about developing the idea of the activity center there a little bit further. And what I'm asking for is this a spot where we want to spend development money with Journey, which is real numbers to develop some of the things that they're asking for. The city, as it came up, wants to only develop in the right of way. And that's very, very important to me. Tom's group has seemed to accept the right of way where it is. Any items that are on the right of way, there's a little bit of contention or issues with who actually owns the train, and our legal counsel will make sure that we develop that really well. So I just wanted to hand out, I only printed a few of the things they're doing. Ann can fill in any of the holes I'm leaving there.
Yeah, well, so the original activity recreation area in front of the Toy Museum was primarily landscaping, I think some benches. It was going to wrap around the train that currently sits there as part of Tom's display and part of his business. So when we went to talk to them about what that would look like, they had already had some ideas and blew them out a little bit further in terms of making it more of a train depot, maybe having some murals there that talked about the history of trains in the area, Frank Lloyd Wright and Reuben Branson. And that was not part of Journey's original plan or design for that space. So if we want to pursue this, that's what Michael was saying about some additional design expense and then ultimately that also translates, of course, into additional construction costs. If obviously a depot structure is built, there was no structure plan there. It was improve the sidewalk, improve the landscaping, benches and a gathering space there in their area. We don't have the overhead, but I think you guys know where the museum is and where that train sits, right? It sits perpendicular to 76. So Michael and I didn't feel like we should go forward with asking Journey to revise a design without you all having a chance to weigh in. And that's why Tom and Ron are here too, to voice their opinion. Then the issue came up about the train ownership as well, so.
Correct, and we're working through that on a legal aspect as far as the city's stances is if we were to invest city dollars on the behalf of you, with you supporting it, that this isn't just a 2-year deal, it's a 25-year deal that makes sure that what we're designing around towards the actual train, the train is gonna stay put. And
The actual train engines on loan from Jim Morris and
Well,
Tom.
the key thing is it's not just a train. Jim Owens, who's one of the founders of this city, his oil company, and he had his headquarters up in Springfield for a long time. He was instrumental with the Legends here and Ramada and all the other developments. The only basis by which Mr. Beck got that on loan was to go to Mr. Owens and requested Mr. Morris, and he granted it on a loan basis, but he also gave him a steam shovel at the same time, a large steam shovel that's on the property. And the reason, one of the caveats he made it a 10-year loan is that he wanted to make sure that it was transported down. He had it at his executive offices up there in Springfield, where the train is located. This is a Cannonball number 9, a 1900 vintage locomotive. But one of those conditions in the contractual arrangements to put it on loan was that it be displayed appropriately for the public to get to enjoy that locomotive. And that also included a plaque to be displayed on behalf of Mr. Morris. And that plaque was followed up on. It's a copper plaque of about 3 feet by 3 feet. With his picture on there and a picture of some of his investments here in Branson. And that's a freestanding plaque. So that started the whole process. And then, of course, Tom has been having people come into his museum to see it and so forth. But it is available. City came up with the idea, Great River, of a train plaza being something that might be looking at an interactive environment coming down the strip. A place where people have benches and gather. And I'm not sure if they're looking at other specific locations, but I think this is probably one of the first ones that came to mind. So those pieces have come together, and Mr. Beck is willing to give up the land that is priority land frontage there on the strip for this effort, because he also has a model railway club at the lower level of his. It runs model trains on a regular business aspect. So all these pieces kind of fit together from a historical standpoint. But that's kind of it's not just a locomotive and the background.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't have the history of that in my head very well.
So today it's outside the scope of the project.
Correct. It's like this level to go to a depot is definitely outside the scope of the project.
Okay.
So we're backing up on that. And then Holly Dodge, if you want to jump in anywhere, if you need to, feel free. But the city is adamant about gaining some type of agreement out of this, that it's not, the investment doesn't happen without ensuring, and there's a legal aspect to it.
Yeah, so how would this be different than if the Duttons came and said, we're building a fountain and we'd like for you to pay for part of it? Or if the people at the aquarium came and said, we're adding whatever in front, we'd like for you to pay for part of it. Is it any different at all?
It is no different in that. And so somewhere along the line before my time that they talked about activity centers in this area was activated as an activity center. That was our talk as we went, as if we can't come to a consensus together, then the train stays where it is and we move it back into the corridor. What we always tried to do, and Jeremy's group always tried to do, is make sure that, you know, like the Las Vegas effect that I've talked to you guys about before, is that you're inviting the people that are walking to spread into the business. So the city definitely sees that this is more than a, you know, hey, I'm proposing my own personal business for, but more of a historical piece for the area.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Harold Bell Wright Museum, which we've had for, I think maybe 17 years. And he and Mr. Branson, Reuben Branson, if you had the, I don't know if you've got the,
You want to try a map?
yeah. Anyway, on the, you have the
Online, Paul, what we're doing is we're just flying to Google.
yeah, the.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, if you had could put the Reuben Branson and the Harold Bell Wright, Shepherd of the Hills, on the, what's that called? The glider, or did you settle on the gazebo swing?
Oh, this one.
Oh.
Glider swings,
Yes, glider swing. Anyway, if you put that throughout all of Branson, and it would be a good idea to be able to push that through in retrospect. But anyway, we've had the Harold Bell Wright Museum for what, 17 years? And so I think that was all I was gonna say. Yeah. Mr. Beck has a muralist that's nationally known. Ray Klopfer, and he would do a mural underneath this covering of both Reuben Branson and Harold Bell Wright. That was what was in the mural.
Right.
Yeah, that was.
And those drawings there are not updated. We made sure to, you know, it did name their museum in there. They understand that. And then also as a board, you would be proposing like his artistic right to make a proposal for how much these murals would
And
cost.
we
too.
wanted to push restrooms. You definitely need restrooms, and also we've had this discussion several times, but restrooms and a
Trolley stop, I think, yeah. And so the city took the stance that it was outside of the scope at the time for that, and so we had, but he wanted it on record that he had suggested those.
And I think originally, way back, it was a trolley stop location, wasn't it, back in the CFS, as we were talking about earlier?
We had one of those too.
Yeah, that's right, Presley's had one too.
The Reuben Branson and the Harold Bell Wright, Shepherd of the Hills, it's part of Branson.
It is.
It's the, you know, not just there at the Toy Museum, but it needs to be throughout.
And these are renderings, just so we're clear that Jeremy didn't put these together. This was renderings of ideas that they came to us with, i.e. it's the, you know, the quality may be a little bit different or colors may be a little bit different and so on and so forth.
So what is the city's perspective as far as the legal side of this? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
The concern is the lack of ownership or right to the railroad, to the actual engine and car. It's my understanding, and I have not seen the contract. It would be helpful to see whatever that loan contract or document is, if we could see that. The owner was Jim Morris, and he passed away 3 years ago. So it depends on whether or not his items were in a trust. We have, but if somebody else owns it, we have to get their permission to use it and a commitment from them. We should want to, if you're building around something, you should want a commitment in regards to that. The right doesn't pass directly to us from the toy museum. So that's the concern. Also, the length of time. I believe in the information I was given, there's 2 years left of that loan. So depending on how that loan can be terminated, you could be in a situation where you design around a locomotive that then is gone.
All right, thanks.
And you should have a letter from the attorney.
I reviewed the letter. And I've also identified who the survivors are to his estate, which is his wife and I think he said 2 children. Now, how his estate was set up, I would assume that it was all put into a trust. He was survived by a brother, wife, Catherine, daughters, Debbie, Pam, and Stephanie, and grandson, Brandon and Kelsey, and then great-grandchildren, Paxton and Ari. He could have given it to charity. I don't know. The letter that I received from the attorney said that no one has come to claim and they could not locate a probate in regards to a will, but I would guess because of the history and the charitable givings that it's held in a trust.
So I guess my question.
We don't have any of that information until you've clarified that. You've got a risk.
So I guess, I understand that. I'm jokingly saying, has anybody told Jim Morris he passed away? But you have to know Jim to know the ego of Jim, which you do. So, but anyway, just, clarification of what it is. But the second part would be what the additional cost for the project would be in Great River's side of it, of doing that.
We don't know that until.
To even consider, consider that. So I'm not sure. I have an opinion, honestly, I have an opinion one way or the other till we know more details. So
we're okay either way.
Okay, yeah, you guys have a great attraction there. It really is. I've done that. Yeah, and it is, your place is fun going by. You've got lots of cool stuff there. So anyway, I guess, what are we looking for from us at this point?
Well, no, it's not on the agenda, so we can't do anything.
Okay.
My question would be, and just so at a high level, what's the mission of the CID? And so, we have a project that's an activity center here. We have a project that's an activity center there. And we have thematics. We're doing place making. And so, is this something that fits in? I mean, we've not done any research on anything that would tell us that the customer would or would not like to see this kind of a thing. And what's the real mission of the CID? And then obviously there's cost. And so I don't know, you heard Paul say, it's outside of our project. We don't spend any money. And so it's never been in the project. And then I think, so there's some risk. And I think the other thing you got to ask yourself is, does this look great? Yeah, it looks great. Okay. Next person comes with great, next person comes with great. And do they fit in with, what's the criteria? Because some of it probably works and some of it doesn't, but we have spent no time developing any criteria. And it's public money. So if we can't figure this out, will you guys build this on your own?
No.
Okay.
He's already built it. The locomotives that recruit itself is drawing people into the museum. And this is something with other the historical aspect. Also, we didn't, as an interactive display, didn't approach you with this.
Yeah, understood.
You approached us.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
With this.
I see.
Great River Wizards on it.
Okay.
We're fine either way.
Okay.
Whether we do it or not, or give our land or don't give our land or.
I just appreciate the fact that you're engaged and you're interested and you want to see improvement on 76.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks either way, but I guess, we'll wait for more information of what comes from that, so. Clear as mud, huh, Michael?
He doesn't look like he's totally
You
clear.
want direction?
Yeah.
Recommended direction is we can't do anything until we know anything about the locomotive.
So until we get ownership, Holly Dodge figured out.
Like, there's no point of even going to.
And long-term lease.
Yeah, there's no point of even going to Journey until that's
Yeah.
figured out. Yeah.
Need to do more homework, so see.
Yeah. I know. Somebody tell Jimmy's not here.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Maybe my last second.
Aye. Okay, thank you all.
Yeah, it was the history museum a little